groups were sent out by Queen Sebastian, one of the leaders of the Delphi Council, to assist with the recovery efforts of refugees in and around the Washington hardpoint formed from the various items in the National Mall. This you did. The day after you arrived, you were in the middle of a nice meal when the Dinos forces, the forces of Barrack Carr, the tyrant lizard, the High Lord of the Living Land, attacked the mall. You were tasked with getting your refugees to safety, while the major in charge rushed out to assist. You did this, being accosted by some sneaky lizard men, some sneaky dinos along the way, but you managed to beat them back, only to find that it would seem that a lot of this has been a diversion. A different group of lizard men, actually led by a lizard woman, a priestess of some kind, had used the distraction to break into the Smithsonian Museum and had absconded with not only an artifact of, at the moment, unknown provenance, possibly Mayan, according to Dr. Dick's evaluation, but had also taken a couple of your new friends, the medical assistants that have been helping out at Fort Washington, captive as well. You pursued them into the night, travelling through the conquered environs of Washington, picking your way through the overgrowth and undergrowth, wading through waist-deep muck in a marsh created by the transformation of the area, beating off some leeches in the process. You found yourself at a strange sight, however, within the ruin of the Living Land, within the children's hospital that had been overtaken by the overgrowth of the jungle. Outside was a tree. Now, you would think a tree wouldn't be particularly incongruous in the Living Land, but in this particular instance, the tree had a macabre and malevolent aspect that made it most appealing in element to Abram and Dr. Hemlock. It would seem that this was an element of their home reality, a Rorsch, the horror reality, come home somehow to the Living Land. What this suggests regarding the relationship between the various High Lords is something that you have yet to come to terms with. But this tree, through witness report from one of the individuals who were being used, cocooned within vines and foliage to power the thing, would appear to have been some kind of transportation medium. In fact, the witness told you that the group of lizard men and the two people that they've kidnapped, led by the priestess who she named as Malacrix, had actually gone into the opening within the center of the tree and had disappeared. You followed. An undetermined amount of time within the void occurred, and you found yourself awakening within a cave along the cliff edge of an unknown location. A location that, through various means of discovery, you determined was actually an underground realm within the Living Land itself. You've since met various, well, at least one individual, and picked up some bits and pieces to find out that it's called Meretica. Now, Meretica is quite a big place, as you can see from the map. The little green arrow indicates the cliffside cave where you came in. You made your way down towards a camp at the bottom, just off to where the river is. The blue arrow is actually pointing where there's a massive waterfall that comes plunging out. Now, in the camp at the bottom, it was deserted, but there was evidence of habitation, at least for a couple of weeks. You found the diary, or at least a partial diary, of a young girl. At least you're assuming with the name Kathy, she is a young girl. Let me just find the same thing and I can put the journal up. And it would seem that from the writing in Kathy's journal, herself, her brother, and her father came to this location through different means than yourselves. They were swallowed by a whirlpool in the Colorado River, plunged down the waterfall into the lake, and then managed to drag themselves ashore, meeting a representative of a local group called the Leopard Warriors, a Prince Chakan, They made camp, started to survive, and then Prince Shakan was able to talk to her father and determine that, well, apparently there is a way out of this place. Didn't have any information about what that was. Now, it would seem that your quarry had passed this way, thanks to some very well attributed dwarven tracking skills. Durak was able to sort of, in a very much rangery fashion, probably worthy of Aragorn himself, had managed to work out what had occurred in this place, working out when Chakan and Cathy's father left, what's been going on backwards and forwards, determined that Cathy and her brother Wes were taken within the last 24 hours by creatures or enemies unknown. An indication of some kind of giant snake track was involved in that process. That during that point, your quarry, the warband of lizardmen, had witnessed this fight, had not taken part in it, had held back until after everything had gone, and then they had gone down some 6 to 10 hours ahead of yourselves through the camp, investigated, and then moved on. Durak was able to follow those tracks out of the camp, and each of the tracks, the Leopard Prince and the father, the warband, and the group that absconded with Wes and Cathy, they all went north out of the camp area, following the western bank of the river. And that's the river passing out the Lake of the Giver towards a group called Misty Gorge. You'd travelled north a ways until the path was it forked. Some of the tracks you were following you lost, some you hadn't lost, so you've been following the human and the leopard warriors track primarily. That brought you to an area of the forest that was festooned with webbing, and unsurprisingly you found a lair of some spider of some kind, and within that lair was a still living victim. You fought off the spiders, some of you dealing with the spider venom better than others. A number of your group were almost completely paralyzed, and that lasted for about an hour. But you rescued that individual, who turns out to be the aforementioned Prince Chakan. You've been able to communicate with him in limited fashion. He doesn't appear to understand a word of English, but Cathy's journal had within it a limited lexicon of phonetic pronunciations of common words of what she calls the tongue of the leopard warriors. Anybody that has spent enough time studying that, I think it was Durak and at least Abram, but Theo, you've got access to the lexicon as well. You get a free ad in language leopard warrior, which is going to help you talk to the prince. He has been quite insistent that the important thing is to rescue Spencer. Now, Spencer is the father of the trio. When you described to Prince Chakan what you suspected had happened with the two children, he seemed less concerned, mentioning something about Serpentors, which is the group he thinks have taken them. They are safe, they are alive. Spencer, danger. Spencer, need rescue, then rescue Cathy Wes. And that's where we come to now. You were able to make your way away from the spider lair, and the prince led you along the river for a significant amount of time. He was able to answer some limited questions about the world that you're in, answering as best he can. One thing you have determined is, as the map indicates, they call their sun Helifez, and it is a singular ball at a fixed point in the sky. In fact, as you've moved north, you've noticed it's not moving within the sky, it's staying at a point, but obviously the shadows that are being cast are moving as you move, but not through any movement of the sun. You asked what had happened to him. He told you that he and Spencer were coming back from them checking up about the way out. They were ambushed by a group called the Daruni, and he said, the Daruni hunt leopard warriors. Daruni hunt everyone. We war long time, many die, must end. Chakan have plan, but must rescue friend first. He seemed distant while he was speaking for the Daruni, but he obviously does have some kind of plan. And you bedded down for the night, and after a short rest, you awaken this morning with Chakan eager to get moving. And that's where we begin.
Where are we currently sitting, standing?
You are approximately... no, I can't pick up the...
Because I thought we were in the grass part, not the mountain part. Yeah.
You're about there. So you've still got quite a way. He seems to be moving towards what you can see on the map as Misty Gorge. But when you saw it, it was a patch of the jungle where it was just a sort of a dark grey mist rather than seeing anything down.
Like a lost valley type thing. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. A lost valley within a lost valley, so to speak, because you're pretty much in one of those now.
Okay.
Okay, it seems to be urgent, this mission. Pack our things, let's go.
Yeah.
I'll
Let's
nod.
go.
Get my things together, yeah. And we'll follow him with urgency.
The quicker we get this, help this leopard, the quicker we can get the others as well.
Well, as much as you can call it morning, because there is absolutely no change in day, no temperature. I mean, the temperature is just like it is everywhere within the living land. It is quite oppressive. The humidity is high. You're probably looking in the sort of the late 30s Celsius. For anyone's listening, I can't convert that into Fahrenheit, but it's hot. All of the world laws of the living land are in place, so it seems you get no respite from the tagging and the snagging of your clothing. Sweat drips off you. I mean, within your armor, Durak, I mean, you're used to it, but it's still quite unpleasant and sticky. But a few more kilometers along the route, as he calls Tall River, he comes up to a stand of dense trees, and Chakan points further uphill off to the left, heads a few dozen yards in that direction. And as you follow, you see the leopard prince pulling aside some giant leaves to uncover two, hidden within the trees, large, heavy canoes, probably big enough to take 5 people each in each one. And as you're looking, he turns and begins about, and he shakes his head and says in Leopard Warrior, "Long war." You get the implication that these sort of things are put out by Leopard Warrior soldiers as a means to react at a moment's notice to Daruni aggression. He assists you in manhandling them back down the small hill to the river and puts them in. He holds the stern of each of them to prevent them from being taken away. He indicates Chakan Disbud. And then he'd wait for a volunteer, apparently to volunteer as pilot of the other one.
We need a pilot. If I said 5 people could fit in one boat.
Yeah, but there are more than 5 of you see. Because there are Dr. Dick, Ryoko, Dr. Hemlock, and 2 arachnobots.
No,
So there's 9 of you in total, including Chakan.
Do we also have the girl still?
Good point. You can decide now whether you were you able to convince her to go back with the individual that you rescued from the pods of the.
We certainly tried to get her to go back.
Okay, give me a
talker. That's
test,
Theo.
I thought she left us when we went into the thing.
No, I mean, if you hadn't stopped her, she would follow you still, so that would make the 10th.
What's your play back then?
Yep, that's
11. That'll do.
Yeah, you convinced her basically with the macabre nature of the tree, because it didn't just feel like a tree with a hole in it. There was a whole skin crawling up the nape of your neck feel when you were within sort of like 50 to 100 meters of this thing. I mean, you're used to it, Abram, because it's what you feel 24/7 when you're in the Aurora reality. But the rest of you and her, it was very unnerving. Father Theo, you were able to some kind words, promising that you would rescue the individuals that were kidnapped, and you managed to convince her to stay behind, which is good for you. Well done. Which reminds me, Abram, purely for an out of
Yep.
character working where you work, you've been nominated to get a bonus possibility today.
Oh, okay.
And because, as I stated, without saying where you work, I did state that it is probably the closest to the visceral, chaotic, primal nature of the living land reality,
Yeah.
that it is a living land possibility. Now, we've not awarded any COSM-specific possibilities yet, but each COSM has their own ones. And these are the sort of things that can be awarded for appropriate roleplay within those areas. Or I can choose, when you use a COSM card, some of the bonus possibilities from that COSM card can be appropriate to the COSM. Anytime you refresh your possibilities, you can choose to retain that one as long as you haven't spent it. So you could have up to your maximum refresh in COSM specific possibilities if you want. Now, the point of a COSM specific possibility is you can spend it in a different way. Now, with a living land one, rather than spending it to give you an extra d20 on your roll, you can choose to spend it simply to give you an extra bonus die on your damage.
Oh, so my damage.
Yeah. So you can just go, right, I'm going to spend that on my damage. However, if you do elect to spend it to get the reroll, because of the nature of the living land reality, if you're using it on a reroll of something that is not appropriate to the living land, such as I'm using a device over Tech 6, or I'm doing a persuasion roll and I'm persuading somebody using thoughts, means, concepts that are above the living land social axiom, for example, you can still do that, but it loses the possibilities facility to be a minimum of a roll of a 10. So if you roll a 2, it's a 2. But as long as you're doing something thematically appropriate to the living land, that doesn't occur. Okay?
So I can use it as a normal possibility, but it'll have potential. It's not quite as powerful if
you're not using it within the ethos, in the oeuvre of the living land. What is it that idiom? That was it. That's Lancelot's thing.
But
Where he says it's not within my idiom, sir.
But I can also use it to add
you can use it instead
damage.
to add a bonus die. Each of them have them. The Nile Empire's one is very much tied into their law of action. Isles is very much about honor and light. The cyber papacy, you can spend a cyber papacy possibility to force a heretic to reroll. So if they're doing magic, you can spend a possibility to make them reroll that magic test. Or if they're using a non-cyber papacy religion, you can force them to reroll, because it's all about the one true God and magic being evil and demonic. Do not yet know what Tharkold ones are, or Arosh, or the Pan Pacifica, but when they come out, they'll be appropriate. But you're not there. You can only get them when you're in the reality as well.
Cool. Thank you very much.
So, with that being dealt with, I don't know how you can record them because there's no way to indicate on your character sheet that my first four
I've
is
put it into my class.
another.
That's
Just
why it
put it
says
in.
I'm now level 1. I've put it into my class. I've typed my class as living land possibility.
Level 1. Zero
level
experience
1.
for the next level. That's what Durac went. What?
Yeah, that's what confused Durac.
Now it does that. So, who's doing the second canoe? If you want, it can be elected to be one of the characters that isn't here. At the end of the day, it's the water vehicle skill. You can use it unskilled. So, if you want to just make sure they've got the right thing, then if we check the rolls, water vehicles is off dexterity. So, if no one else picks, Ryoko volunteers to be the oarswoman for boat 2.
Yes, it probably isn't my forte.
Does anyone have it? The actual skill?
I don't think so. Ryoko doesn't have water vehicles.
What's her dexterity then?
About 12, I think.
Is it?
Doopy-doopy-doo. Oh, it's a 9. It's not a 12, it's a 9. I'll be looking at too many ones. But 9 is still good enough.
I'll take it then. I'm a 10.
Oh, okay. Cool. Wow, you guys. Okay, she's got a better melee weapon skill than you.
How about go with the Chaco guy? Because I speak the language.
Right, okay. So let's just say we look at the party sheet and we're going to separate people out into columns. So, Abram, you're in canoe 2.
Yep.
I'll actually let me find. I do actually have a token for.
I'm in the party canoe.
NPCs. Skellen knows this. Once you start putting stuff in, you get so many things to go around. I suppose you do as well, Gaz. You've done enough on these ones. Leopard Noble is who we want. So he is doing.
I forget the spiders.
So Leopard Noble's in that one. That refugee isn't there anymore. Oh, refugee 4. I just want to delete that. Go away. I did it. Cool. So who are we missing? We're missing the Arachnobots. Now, obviously, the Arachnobots are going to be in the same boat as their master, which is, of course, the blank-faced residence Hemlock.
Whatever happened to the guy? Was there not a guy that was with someone? No, that's a different game. Forget that.
That would be what happened to that guy. It's
God,
the one from a different game.
I literally hate my memory.
Combat Tracker.
I thought the
Arachnobot 1.
Blade Girl had a blade person as well, but it wasn't.
Arachnobot 2.
There's no faces missing.
Yep, I'm just finding no face now. Oh, that's annoying. Oh, okay, there is there. Oh, that's stupid. I can't pick up no faces. That is really annoying. There's actually an icon there. Okay, I'm going to have to add. I'm going to put someone on for residence. Let us quickly find a token for him, and it will be his token forevermore. Well, until he
Make him
finds his
embarrassing.
own one. Let's find an appropriately Rorschach one.
Dracula.
No, we haven't got a Dracula one. I'm trying to find a bad guy Rorschach. Victorian soldier.
He wasn't Victorian. Is he a Victorian scientist?
He is a Victorian, so he's going to have to be appropriately Victorian.
Yeah, but I said he wasn't a soldier. I said Victorian scientist is what I said.
Yeah, he was. Or is, I should say. Hang on, I need to remove him from there.
Like an elf.
And then add him again. Does he get added? No. Why wouldn't it let me add Hemlock to the bloody thing?
There's somebody there. Who's that?
Yeah, who's that guy?
Well, that'll do. That's him. So, who's in which boat? So, your Theo and Durak are in Chakan's boat, and at the moment, let's even out the boats. Okay, doesn't really matter. They're going to be even regardless. It's 2 Arachnobots. They're smaller than human.
And there's 9. So there.
Yeah, which is 5. So as I said, each canoe can hold up to 5.
I'm stuck in the same boat with Durak, am I?
It seems that way.
Just think about it. There's only 3 people, so you have to be stuck in a boat.
Well, at the moment, let's say the boat having the most conversations is Abrams' one, because probably for the entirety of the trip, Dr. Dick is constantly commenting about stuff around, and anytime he makes a comment, Dr. Hemlock immediately sort of counteracts the comment, and they're bickering like an old married couple.
Yeah, you're right. I'm better off here with Durak.
Yeah. No, put the Arachnobots between them. Can't trust them.
Well, it's fine. And one of the Arachnobots is like paddling slightly to help what you're doing.
I may capsize this boat on purpose.
So you get the impression, and also from where you are on the map, from Prince Chakan, that your destination is still a significant distance away. So just give me a water vehicles roll, please.
Good luck there, mister.
Prince Chakan doesn't have to make this because he is adept at paddling one of these canoes.
Yeah, just think you're responsible for killing everyone who's not here.
Let's hope so.
Okay. It looks like it's starting out quite badly because you've got a standard difficulty of 10.
Well, I'm swinging round. I've just shut them 2 up. It's like, will you just sit still? Stop arguing. Stop. No. This boat doesn't control itself.
So it doesn't, and you do have some significant difficulty with it within the first few miles. In fact, you're still having some difficulty when about an hour down the river, you can't really judge distance too well. It's just, most of the time, it's featureless jungle on each side of you, so you're finding it quite difficult to work the pace. But it's been about an hour when on the east riverbank ahead of you, you notice a number of leopard warriors sitting on the riverbank. They seem to be doing sort of checking on their weapons. As you approach, they stand and reverently bow to the prince in the lead canoe, and he puts his canoe in amongst them and gestures for you to follow and do likewise, Abram. So go ahead and see if you can redeem yourself with water vehicles. It looks like you've got the knack. Yeah, you've got the knack with some sort of kayaking skills you didn't know you had. You can bring them around and just come to a nice, gentle bump. He disembarks, goes over to the warriors and begins speaking to them. They appear heavily injured, so they obviously had some kind of conflict within the last few hours or so, but they seem brave and stoic as he walks among them, speaking in their language. You pick up a few words, Durak, Abram, anyone who's got the thing. He does appear to be giving them confidence, advice, congratulating them, saying, "Oh, good, well done, good skill." Getting some detail from them in return that you don't quite catch. And as he's speaking to them, you notice some of the others like looking over you. And after a few minutes spending, Chakan comes back and he says, "These warriors protect gatherers on river, looking for important medicine. Daruni find them and attack. Many dead and wounded on both sides. This war must end." Now, anyone who's interested can make an evidence analysis check right now. Nope. Okay.
11.
Theo, you're not really getting much more out of this. Abram, you're looking and you're seeing, and as he's going around, you can see that the warrior's wounds are consistent with stabbing weapons, but they appear to be a mix of sort of lateral stabs from something you could maybe a sword blade or a saber or a dagger blade, but they're interspersed with circular puncture wounds as well.
Use your brains, Abraham.
Circular puncture wounds.
Circular puncture wounds.
Like the hole almost.
Yeah, like a hole. Just to give you an idea, that's actually what Prince Chakan looks like.
Cool.
Okay.
Although he's probably lost some of the bits of his headdress, but you can see similar headdresses among the warriors. Clearly, they call themselves leopard warriors for reasons that include they adorn themselves with the skins of leopards. They're not particularly dark skinned. They've got the sort of mocha-coloured skin that goes with
hi, Alex.
Those sorts of ones. Have we got a Ryoko?
Hey ho.
Hello, sir.
She's not a hoe, is she? I thought she was. That's.
Hey, keep that a secret. We're on, some sort of channel that we don't want people.
The wrong game. Although, as I said on the chat,
that was the other one we had.
At some point, as far as PG-13 is concerned, we do have to have a conversation about how comfortable you all will be if we do Tharkold to its proper sort of R-rated version rather than the PG-13 version.
I've played Slaanesh and I've played a priestess of Shalia, so I'm okay.
After the priestess of Shalia, then nothing. You can't shock anyone.
To give you an idea, within Tharkold, the general environment may be somewhat akin to those elements in the Hellraiser movies where somebody gets halfway through opening the box and the environment changes and gets a lot of chains and spiky bits and viscera and blood and bits and pieces like that.
Well, from my private Warhammer sessions with my friends, I was on the receiving end of Slaanesh shenanigans, so
these are the worst bits of
everything.
Corn. Worst bits of Corn, coupled with some of the worst predations of Slaanesh. Tzeentch and Nurgle don't really get a look in, although there's nothing to say they wouldn't. But anyway, we'll have that conversation. But it sounds like you'll all be fine for essentially expanding the thesaurus, shall we say, descriptively. So a few minutes after this, Chakan, obviously shaken by the news from these warriors from his tribe, does gesture that you should go back to the canoes with the intent of continuing onwards.
More people to kill.
Just out of interest, how big are these circle wounds? Are they like a spear shaft size? Or
No, you reckon... whatever it is. I mean, do you want to go and ask one of the warriors to examine the wound?
if I'm allowed, I do like to keep notes on all these things.
Give us either medicine, first aid, or if you want to continue with evidence analysis.
Maybe it's one of them swords with a spike at the end of it.
Cool. Oh, close up.
Wow.
Close up. So you delay a few minutes. Prince Chakan's fine with this when you indicate what you're trying to do. From your experience, the closest this would be in anything you've encountered would be if somebody had been gored by a long straight horn, nothing as big as a rhino, maybe sort of larger antelope horn, but it appears to be straight. The one thing you do notice, however, is there does appear to be evidence of toxin in and around the wound. So it is obviously something that starts out narrow and then widens. This one would appear to have stretched the wound out to maybe the size of a £2 coin. So maybe about 1.5 inches across at the widest point of penetration. And it obviously delivered some kind of toxin.
Oh, so like a stinger almost.
Yeah, like a stinger. Stinger's a very good
A
way.
large stinger.
Large stinger, yes. So,
And what are they called, these warriors? They're called
Daruni.
Daruni.
Darooni. No, it doesn't help at all. In fact, the lexicon doesn't have that word within it, and none of the words. Yeah, none of the words that Chakan has been using to describe them have been that descriptive. But as you think, wasp warriors, some of the pantomimes that Chakan has been doing, thinking back to them, did include some degree of flapping.
Oh, hell.
And your Durak, as you're having this conversation as well with Abram, you start to think back to when you were at the spider lair. You had followed a set of unusual tracks from, you tracked them back from the cave where you found Chakan. There was obviously drag marks that went about 50 or 60 meters north of the cave. Then there was what you could describe maybe as an impact mark. Now, if there was something flying involved, that would make sense that Chakan had been dropped by something there and then had been dragged by the spiders to his point of cocooning. So things are starting to make a bit more sense as you're bringing them together. The Dark River continues. Every so often you can see large creatures cresting the water, but then before you can get to see what they are, they go down again. There are points where the jungle overgrowth gets to such a prolific degree that it overshadows where you are, and you're literally going under a canopy of branches and liana and large alien leaves. And there's one area where the jungle here is becoming more and more at once beautiful, disturbing, dark, and mysterious. And you spot large, I mean, when I say large black serpents, these things are maybe 8 inches across at the girth and the better part of 20 feet long, slithering along the riverbanks. Once or twice, where you think you're seeing a log in the water ahead of you, it shifts slightly, and then crocodile-like eyes emerge underneath it from the green water. You see a pack of pig-like things with hands instead of paws, following inquisitively along the west bank as your group continue along. And once or twice you can almost hear them whisper, "Chakan," as they fade out into the flora. It grows silent for a while. The repetitive lapping of the oars in the water almost putting you to sleep. But as you fight your fatigue, you note a point ahead the river narrows. Twisted boughs of massive trees join overhead, forming a tangled ceiling once again. Can everybody please make a find check? You think Wasp Warriors because that's one of the things Abram said.
I heard someone screaming. Oh, God.
Release the Ryoko.
What's Find Mind, isn't it?
Oh,
So
is Ryoko not available? I opened her, I think, earlier on. Yeah, it's owned by you.
That's odd.
If you're probably not logged in as the Prediger, which is what you normally do.
I connected to someone's game, and it was started as 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. What?
Well, it wasn't theirs. Okay, that's not a problem. And you connected to the right one. Try again.
Epic Goon Deranged Zone, right?
Yeah, that's me, I think, yeah.
Okay, I'll try again.
Somebody else will have to confirm that for me because I can never work it out and open it. It's on the pinned messages.
It's on the pin.
Yeah, Epic Goon Deranged Zone. I don't think I've changed it. Everyone else managed to connect.
Yeah, it was the same.
So we have a 13 on Abram, who's in the second boat again. We'll wait for Ryoko to connect, see what her find check's going to be.
Don't know. She's in the 5th edition. I don't know. I don't know if they have find checks back then.
I think it's Perception in 5th edition.
It's probably typed in the range wrong or something.
Yeah, DERANGED.
Or go to the pin and copy and paste.
It's not coming up telling me that you've got a connection.
It stopped also.
I'll roll you a quick D20 because I can access your details. That's a 9. That will be a bonus number of -1. And Ryoko's find is the grand total of, not too bad, of a 10. So you get a -1, but you're still getting a 9. Remember, you can play cards at this point if you want to as well. Get them out, get some use. But anyway, as you're heading under the boughs of these trees, Abram, your heart suddenly races as you realize some of the shadows on the tree branches above you are creatures. They appear to be some kind of avian humanoids, unlike anything you've seen so far. I've got a nice black and white photo if I can find it.
It doesn't look like Ariok, whatever my name was. The Aracoca, whatever it was.
It's not an Arakocra. Similar. So they are perched up on the boughs. Bright yellow eyes, completely motionless, staring down at you. They appear to remain silent. They don't interact with you in any way, but their eyes follow attentively as you pass underneath them. Just to let you know, their plumage is red with stripes of white along the chest and wingtips. Their heads are tufted with bright yellow feathers. And every so often, one of them just clacks its mouth, and you can see sharp fangs and those bright yellow eyes following you as you pass beneath.
John,
Mm-hmm.
have you put a password? Because it says the host has been protected in session.
Here, look at Discord. Do you see what I typed there? Epic Goon. That's how it's spelled.
Double check your spelling because now I've not got a password on it.
Yeah, Epic Goon Deranged Zone.
Make sure you've not because I did this the other week. Make sure you've not inadvertently opened the one for you. Oh, there, you've connected now.
Okay, now I use the IP address.
Obviously, maybe there's something out there with the same detail.
Maybe yours has changed and you don't know it.
No, I don't think so. The IP's connected anyway.
Yeah, but IP doesn't use the name, so.
And if you do nothing, the 3 figures continue watching as you slowly pass something. I mean, you're
I'll
possibly.
motion to Chakar about them and to see how he reacts to
He
them.
looks up, nods, and just replies, "Lorendi." One word.
So I'll say not the name.
Not Daruni.
Not Daruni.
He shakes his head. No, Lorendi.
Okay.
Friends?
He's not really got a word for friends in the bits, but he gets the gist and sort of like does a non-committal shrug. Possibly the closest you've got from him as to not a threat, not an ally, not to worry. But it's just another example of the strange creatures that live within this area. About an hour continues down the river. Perhaps by this point you're starting to get an idea of the distances you travel, maybe 5 kilometers or so. The river widens into a set of short rapids, shallow fords and sandy beaches before narrowing again. Can you please make me a water vehicles roll, please, Abram? As you watch Prince Chakan deftly, with little effort, negotiate his way around the various sandbanks and rapids.
Oh, no.
Okay. However, you do not have as easy a time of it.
Can I just say them two again arguing in the back? It's not me.
You can do, but the boat is smashed around. You don't capsize, but there are a couple of, shall we say, hairy moments when somebody almost goes overboard, and you're having to crack around. The boat appears to have taken a little bit of a bashing, as have you within it. So everybody in the Gardner boat takes 2 shock, and it is not shock that's going to be able to recover anytime soon, as you are stressfully having to guide this boat down the river. Another hour passes, it narrows once more, spilling into fast-flowing channels that threaten to dash your canoes to splinters. Another water vehicles roll, please, Abram.
I like the sound of this description. Not as peaceful. Ooh, 11?
Well, even with the rough handling that you mete out upon your vehicle, they seem continuingly and surprisingly sturdy. And you make it through, obviously having learned the lessons from previously, you make it through the second set of rapids with little event or concern. Eventually, the river passes through the rapids, obviously dropping a little bit, widening slightly, slowing. The canopy closes in again with the long twisting bows overhead, as when you first saw the Lorendi earlier. They're not present this time, but the branches ahead are wrapped in what you first take for snakes. But then as you approach, you realise are thick, corded vines of some sort.
Are they red vines?
No, they appear to be deep, deep green. This point, Durak, in your boat, you notice that Chakan is paying closer attention to the water, so he hasn't noticed what's up ahead just yet.
Point out to him. Oh, vines green.
He looks up, and a worried look comes over his face, and he begins to back paddle a little bit and gesturing to Abram to do the same. Must try avoid. Predator.
I'll squint and look up at where he was looking.
Well, he's pointing towards these bundles of tentacled masses. Now you're looking at them, you can see that the thick, corded green vines that hang off lead up into the canopy, where you can see them draped over the boughs of the tree in these sort of like corded central mass. And as you watch, one of the ones that's in the water twitches. Then there's a reflective spasm that goes all the way up the tentacle, and you see it come out of the water carrying sort of maybe a 3.5 foot long sort of half reptile, half fish, and it just rolls up within sort of like a fraction of a second, and then that's back up in the mass, and the remaining ones in the water twitch slightly as you see within that mass something is pulsing away.
Let's stay clear of that, I think.
The issue you've got is there don't appear to be any obvious ways through. You're looking, you can see if you can work out a route through. Chakan seems to be gesturing his intent to possibly go over to the right. But Abram, you're not certain if that's any safer than any other route. So you've got a couple of choices here. You could beach and walk through. Chakan appears to be taking your boat with the Theo, Durac, and Ryoko still along the river. Abram, you've got to decide what you're doing.
So they're definitely going through the river.
Chakan does appear to be committed to aiming for what he thinks is a safer, I'm not going to say safer path through them.
The banks themselves, are there any of these? Are these like thrombs and whatnot just in the water, or are they?
They appear to be majority hanging over. The problem you've got with the banks, you've got lots of tree boughs and roots breaking across. You can't actually see an easy way to get to the bank. Plus, it does appear to be quite shadowy. I mean, as you look, you see something larger moving from the shadows of the jungle, but it doesn't reveal itself.
Yeah, we'll stick to what he's doing then.
Okay. So, Chakan's boat goes through first. What I would like everybody in that boat to do is to generate an active defense total. This could be dodge, melee weapons, whatever defense total you think is best for yourselves. Now, as it's an active defense, you will roll one die, re-rolling and adding as appropriate. However, whatever you roll, it's going to be a minimum bonus number of 1. So even if you roll a 2, you're not going to make it worse for yourself. So to begin with, that's Durac, Theo, and Ryoko. Please generate a defense total. I did say it didn't have to be dodge. It could be melee weapons.
Yeah, but the only thing better would have been unharmed. Everything else
Or
is
unarmed, it could be, because it depends. It's any of the defensive skills you could otherwise use.
Well, that would only bring it up to 7. I mean, so wouldn't it?
Okay, not a problem. So I'm now going to roll for Prince Chakan to see how easily he negotiates through. That's a bonus number of 1 on his skill. So you're getting a bonus number of 1 added to your totals. But he does get you swiftly through the patch of what he is referring to as green lurkers. Unfortunately, there is at least one instance where you go close enough to one or other of these things for it to twitch in attack on you. So they're going to generate unarmed combat totals against each of you. So, Durac, what would have been your highest one? It would have put it up by what? To a 9?
Yep. No, to 7.
A 7. Okay.
Yep. I could make it 10, but I don't think I will.
What, bringing your shield to bear?
No, use a card. I
Okay,
could
it's up
do
to
that,
you.
but
However, the one that goes after you, obviously it twitches. You feel it brush against your arm, but obviously this thing has some kind of sense that allows it to determine that thing is not flesh, that thing is metal, that thing is not something I want to chew on. So while it does twitch, and I mean, when I say it brushes your arm, it slaps against your arm and then heavily scrapes down your armor for probably a good second and a half as the boat slowly moves through. But whatever it is, you are a tin can, and this thing is not interested in having to open a canned meal at this time.
Look at the dwarves.
Indeed. Father Tenelon, however,
Oh dear.
Looks nice and
has a
tasty.
bonus number of
Gets
4.
eaten.
So that is a bonus number giving you a total unarmed combat against your defense, albeit at +1 of 13, of a 15. So it does twitch, react, and you feel the it envelop your left arm as you're going through, and then it tightens with a vice-like grip. Now, the first thing that happens is we will apply its base strength damage to your arm. Now, that is a 15. This thing is, I mean, if you don't take action, you almost feel the bones in your arm crunch as this thing gets you in like an anaconda-like vice grip. What is your toughness, including any armor that you might have?
Aha, okay, so my toughness is 7, but I think I've got some armor which makes it... armor 3, oh yeah, it makes it 10, sorry.
10. So it's still 5 results. So it grabs, and you, well, the bones don't necessarily crack. It depends if you're going to take a wound, if you're going to soak it or not. The joint does sort of like snap slightly as you feel something dislocate. You take 1 wound and 2 shock unless you decide to soak.
I'll have a go at soaking that, so I'll spend a possibility.
Yep, and just to reiterate, I described this before we went on stream. Last week when I said you can only spend 1 possibility in a roll, that was absolutely correct. However, spending it to activate soak doesn't count as the possibility you're spending on your roll. So, Abram, you could have, as Theo is now doing, spent a possibility to soak, which gives you your reality check versus a standard difficulty of 10. But then you could also spend a possibility on the test.
Oh, now we know. I did
It would
tonight. I
just
can't
stop you
remember.
getting poisoned.
So I could spend a possibility on that,
yeah.
for
You
example.
can spend, so you've spent 1 to activate your soak, and you can now spend 1 to get you above a 10. So this is now going to add to your 3. So that's an 18, that gives you a 21, which is a bonus number of 8. Add that to your reality skill, which is a 12. That gives you a 20. Now, if you've got a good standard success, that would be a 10 or more. You get rid of 1 wound and all shock. On a good, you can get rid of 2 wounds and all shock. On an outstanding, you get rid of all wounds and shock. Essentially, an outstanding result means you have subconsciously sifted in a fraction of a second through all of the possible realities, all of the possible outcomes that ended with you being less damaged than you were. And with that very good roll of a 20, I'm going to say the outcome you sorted through was the one where in the split second before the thing's constrictive muscles got you in a vice-like grip, you managed to just drag your arm back, unbalancing you slightly in the boat, but you feel, and it clinches on thin air, and then like a Venus flytrap that's been taunted by poking it rather than putting a fly in, the tentacle strips upwards and disappears into the main body, and you hear an unsatisfied crunch, crunch, crunch that might have been you had you not just managed to get yourself out of that route.
For you.
And for Ryoko, similarly, with a -6, doesn't come anywhere near you, but with yours, possibly something similar to what happened with Durak, but thematically different, in the fact that as you saw the thing coming close enough to your right shoulder, you just tapped a couple of buttons on a reactive pad on your left leg, and you just let a small amount of electrical charge just build up on the shoulder plate of your armor, and the thing touches that and just immediately retracts in defense.
Do you have any good cards, William? I might have a few to lend to you if you need it.
Now over to boat 2. First off, we have to determine if any of the denizens in boat 2 get any benefits of the superior piloting of their oarsmen. So, Abram, please generate a water vehicle total.
Come on.
So far, you're going to be at least adding 1 to everybody's defense rolls.
Okay, yeah, we'll stick with that.
Okay. So I would like somebody to roll for Dr. Dick and somebody to roll for Dr. Hemlock.
Who did you roll for there, Durak?
First person.
Dr. Dick got a 2.
Yeah, I don't think I should roll for people. I'm just putting it out there now.
Too late now.
Okay, no problem.
You can roll a possibility, can't you? Use a
He
possibility.
can do. He's only got 1, so.
Oh.
We roll that because it's bad.
Yeah.
No. It's fine.
I know.
He'll use his second chance card, which is where you're getting the roll from.
Oh.
Because I think he would have done that.
Nice.
28 then if it's a second chance card used.
Yep. So that's a bonus number of a 9. So he is currently rocking, let's say he's doing dodge, a dodge total of 20. 21. So who's rolling for Dr. Hemlock?
Me. Children roll.
Somebody roll.
Okay.
Theo or Ryoko.
What to roll?
Just roll a
D20.
D20. You're rolling Dr. Hemlock's. Again, for him, probably dodge. I mean, they're all based off dex. He would have, dodge. So he's rolling with an 8. So he has a defense of at least a 1. So that's a 9. In fact, it's at least 1 on the other one. So Dr. Dix is actually 22 when you take into account Abram's piloting. And for the pilot himself, Abram.
Am I rolling dodge? Is that what we said? Or just
You
a
can
D20
use
first?
dodge, or you can elect whichever defense skill is your best that you could be feasibly using in this scenario. So unarmed, melee, dodge,
But it still counts as a 1.
minimum of a 1, yes. So you'd be going
So
off
that
of
would
a
be
13. 14 at the moment, yeah. So 15 when you take into account that your own piloting.
Oh, yeah, 15.
Wow, what's that? Is it your melee weapons or?
Me?
Yeah.
Dodge.
Oh, your dodge is quite good then. Well done. I suppose you're a ranged monkey, aren't you?
Yeah.
Why you said 15? It's not 15 because you got all them negatives.
No, they don't count. It always counts
It's
as a minimum of 1.
defense. It's always a minimum bonus number of 1.
Oh, okay.
So
So
versus
what does that 15 make? Sorry, that's what they've got to beat in
that's their
their
target number
roll.
to hit. Yes.
I'll stick with that then.
Okay. So Dr.
15.
Dick gets 1 comes close to him, and he just like nonchalantly leans to one side, belches, almost seemingly like he's about to throw up overboard, and the thing just glides past him. No problem at all. The one for Dr. Hemlock goes for him, and then without him even moving a muscle, one of his arachnobots just reaches up, and the other one reaches up, and there's almost a sort of a cage of copper and bronze, and the thing just flops onto that and like scrapes across the unliving crossed limbs of his automata.
He was lucky. Oh,
And
3
you
rolls.
just duck and just stay down in the boat, and blindly, with your eyes just over the edge of the boat, are just finding your way through, and the thing just disappears off to your side. Yeah, law of averages is I will crit soon. What's that doing now?
Yes. If we keep saying he's going to do it, then he won't.
You pass beneath that which lurks above with, thankfully, little effort. After about another hour or two, you begin to hear a distant roaring noise. Ahead of you, there is a sound. After a while, it resolves. There is a massive waterfall ahead. You drift another half an hour before, in the straight water ahead of you, you espy, possibly still almost half a kilometre, 500 metres away, the mist showing the telltale evidence of water cascading off a cliff into the unknown depths below. Chakan, who's ahead at this point, gestures off to the port, to the left, pointing towards shore. I'm not going to make you roll again. I don't want to push your luck, Abram. By this point, after the amount of time that you've spent, you are more than able to deal with the... Why can't I make it? It doesn't
Just
let me
not in my boat.
It's that way, isn't it? You move it from the back, and then you can move it. There we go, to there. And again, about a kilometre ahead of the falls, you beach your boats on a rocky shore. The leopard warrior walks towards the waterfall, and the edge of a great, breathtaking chasm. It's roughly the shape of a boot, with you on the bottom of the arch. Give me a second and I will share with you an appropriate image and the position of where you are.
Is it Italy
No.
or New Zealand?
Now, one of these, can you remember? I know that mask, square, normal. What is the one? Is it Alt to do? No, it's Shift, isn't it? To do the. Yeah, that's what I want.
I always get those mixed up too.
And I'm doing the wrong way around. Is there any quick and easy way to reverse the mask, or do I have to start again?
I think you need to start a. Oh, are you trying to put the mask back on?
No, I've just realised I've unmasked the bit I want to mask. I've got to go the other way around.
Oh, yeah, I think Control does something as well. Does Control put the mask back or whatever?
I go delete mask. And apologies, and I'll put it on again. Now I've got to. What's the quickest way of? It's Shift to do that one. So I've got to go around. Doobity-bity.
Oh, I know what you did. Yeah, you revealed the wrong half after. Yeah, I did that
Yeah.
a lot.
It only needs to be rough. But now I've got to sort of reverse it. So I've got to do that and then go all around the edge. Doobity-bity-bity-bity. Come on, you bugger. Do it right this time. Hey, did it right that time? Okay. And it resembles a boot, I tell you.
A gun. Handgun.
Yeah, a gun, a boot, nothing else, no other resemblances.
I thought it wasn't until we got to Tharkold that we had to worry about the PG-13 bit.
You guys are, if I can come out of mask mode now.
You can
it's-
get cross
it's-
with me at first.
It's engorged, this.
No, it's a Misty Gorge, not
Oh,
Engorge.
I missed
You know that.
You'll get cross with me if I start drawing on it, won't you?
Yes. So
Okay.
you have made your way, and you can see it's about 2 kilometre scale, so you can see it's quite big. Essentially, while the mist wreathes the jungle, it is literally a grey cloud cover beneath your feet as it heads out toward the gorge. The mist itself, you can see about 50 meters down beneath you before the mist actually starts. So obviously it's heavier than air and it has settled. The walls look to be slate, grey, wet shale. What's beneath this, along this breathtaking chasm, is unknown, for that thick mist begins about 50 meters down and hides everything below. Prince Chakan is stood at the edge, looking over, seeming to be doing some kind of surveillance around. But at this moment, he's not making any particular efforts about how to get down. So at this point, I am open to your suggestions about how you plan to get down.
Push Dr. Dick off.
While we're thinking of what we're doing here, I noticed that Abraham had a bit of a rough journey earlier, so I'm going to lay on hands upon him. If I may.
Thank you. It was a little bit queasy with them two in the boat. They just would not shut up.
So I think it's just a faith test.
I have faith in you. Yes, yes. Oh.
Nice one.
So, are you of a different faith? Are you Catholic, my son?
No, I am of sorts, I think.
It's of no consequence if you aren't.
All right. I'm
The-
not sure if I am. I'm not. I can't remember. I just read it somewhere on here. What my faith is.
It's basically
If
Like
you're
a-
the faith of Orosh, your faith would be Seselem. Now,
Salam.
it is a parallel faith to Christianity, but it's because the Christian faith did spread within Gaia, and the Victorians, prior to that, they had a sort of a pagan faith, but they did adopt Christianity as well. However, it's sufficiently different. It didn't go through the Reformation. It's almost entirely Old Testament. So, Skellen, you're obviously asking because there are modifiers to your roles, aren't there, for using your miracles on those not of the faith?
Yeah, this is my lay hand on hand skill, and essentially I get a -2 if the allies are of a different faith to me.
Yeah, so you'd count the -2.
Okay,
I mean,
well,
at later points, there might be bigger minuses, such as trying to do a lay on hands on somebody of a significantly different faith. But for now, you've just got that standard one at the moment.
so at the moment I'm on. That puts me on a 21 then in total, I think. So how many was an outstanding success? How many raises?
10 or more. If it's 10 over, it's an outstanding. So 10 over the target number.
Okay, so in which case you heal 3 shock, my son.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Essentially, the prayers seem to work, but you can't help but feel, Abram, that there's a softness, there's an overwhelming commitment to acceptance and forgiveness within Father Theo's words, which basically doesn't sit well with you, but you like the sentiment, if not the overall intent.
The warm
Excellent.
feeling is good enough. Thank you.
It puts the shock back in you.
And was anybody else like a?
No, thanks.
Okay.
I think everyone else is fine. You've not been coming up with anything so far. And the rest of you, apart from Abram, have probably had a relatively relaxing. I mean, you might have to do something similar because Dr. Dick and Dr. Hemlock are both on 2 shock as a result of earlier parts within the river journey. But it's up to you if you deal with them or not.
Yes, I would like to, if they would allow it.
I mean, they'll allow it. I mean, Dr. Dick is berating your foolish adherence to any kind of theological fallacy. He is a classic theoretical physicist. If it's not explainable in the realms of science, it doesn't have any value, except he will quite happily accept that, well, whatever you're doing is working. He just won't necessarily attribute it easily to any kind of deific or miraculous influence, which you can only help but admire the guy's adherence to anti-dogma in a realm where literally you are constantly being filled with spiritual well-being. Or, I mean, you guys here, there's one thing about the Living Land is the spiritualness that infuses the whole place does actually fill you with a sense of well-being continuously. You can't really get away from it. It's part of the overwhelming feel of the place. And Dr. Dick is doing this in denial of that current 24/7 existence. So if you cock up the roll, it's his fault.
Jolly good. Well, I think I'm going to consider him being definitely of a different faith to me then.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Which means that's a 14. So is that that's 4 over? Is that just a success?
4 over would just be a standard then.
Okay, well that's 2. Sorry,
Which
no,
is all we needed.
Sorry, what 1 point of shock with a standard?
Okay, well he's a little bit, but he probably just attributes it to that was quite a inspiring sermon, Father. But whatever, thanks. And then takes a swig of his brandy flask and just attributes the recovery to that.
And then finally, who was the other person who?
Well,
Residence.
Dr. Hemlock would be similar to Abram. There is only really one overarching faith among the Victorians, and that is of the fire and brimstone Seselem type.
So it's 5 for a raise, is it? So 15 is a good
Yep.
success.
If it's a standard difficulty 10, 15 will give you a good success, 20 will give you an outstanding success.
Understood. So that's 2 shock to residents, Mr. Hemlock.
Again, he's takes it under good graces, very similar to how Abram did. You get the feeling that he's a man of science. It's a very strange science. It's probably a science that attests that the space between the stars is filled with a medium by which sky ships could sail between the planets upon the phlogiston. So not the same sort of scientific denial that Dr. Dick attributes, but somewhere in between Abram and Dr. Dick's reactions is what you get from resident Hemlock.
Well, I suppose now we've had a chance for a slight bit of meditation. I guess we should start thinking about how we're going to get down into that gorge. What's the most direct route? Is it something we could do with like ropes or whatnot, John?
Well, you've got lots of vegetation around. There aren't any ropes, but there are liana, vines. There's a significant amount of plant matter, shall we say. You watch as Prince Chakan is obviously doing something similar. He appears to be going into the jungle and not going too far in, but then testing various bits and pieces. And he appears to start dragging more appropriate pieces out, putting them down in a pile. You're not entirely sure how much you're going to need, but already within the time when you were doing that, Prince Chakan appears to have been gathering a significant amount. And if any of you watch him doing that, he does start to sort of gesture to the pile and making like movements and gestures as if to say, well, start putting it together.
Okay, I will dutifully
Stop
help.
twining it together, yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at survival for these guys. If you want to make yourself, it's a group test, so you're looking to get. Well, if 5 of you are attempting something, or 4 of you are attempting something, as long as 2 out of 4 of you get at least enough to give. Standard will give you 1 point. Good will give you 2. Outstanding gives you 3. Yeah, a total of 10 points on an extended test to get enough length of rope in order to progress down.
Could I perhaps help with find by showing them where there's good source of rope?
You can do that. Survival's to put it together. You could try and find more stuff with find.
John, I'll use willpower to make that a 15.
Okay, so you've got 2 points towards your total from Dirac. Gets out his, pops his claws, starts cutting through vines, and then begins plaiting them together with, I would say, practiced ease from Dirac.
He lives in a world with ropes and stuff, so
He does indeed live in a world with ropes. Common adventurer kit is your rope. You did a faith skill there, Theo. Did you mean to do that or find?
Absolutely meant to do find. 1 second, sorry.
What have you got?
Oh, somebody's doing very well.
Oh, eh?
So close to
It wasn't me.
to glory.
Why did that come up as Abram?
What? Yeah, what? Hang on, who's rolling that as me?
Was that
How's
you?
that happened?
Was that you, Alexander, that did that?
No, I haven't done any.
Who keeps rolling?
Somebody's done a 58. Yeah, who's rolling?
Oh no, it's me. Oh, I just realised my
rolling.
mouse. My mouse is over the button to roll, and each time I'm pushed to talk, so I'm pushing and rolling at the same time.
Unfortunately, guys, that 58 doesn't count. Oh,
and I thought I'm drunk. So
yeah. Ryoko, if you could do your survival check as well, or other appropriate skill, if you think you've got a skill that could be applied to the situation of plaiting natural vines into rope, then by all means suggest.
I don't know of any skill.
Then survival is usable unskilled, and survival is mind. Other skills that might apply, yeah, appropriate profession skill might apply, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Okay, but you got enough. So basically you've gotten part of the way. You reckon at this point you've got maybe 300 meters of rope, and Prince Chakend has not stopped dumping more and more vines and other liana onto the pile. So you're going to have to keep making.
Okay, do you
My
require
58
another roll?
now.
So you now another survival roll. At this point, Father
All of
Theo, Chakan seems to indicate that you can stop gathering now. He's saying enough. We've got there.
So you need me to do a natural survival now, do you?
Yeah, he's volunteering. He's suggesting that you help with actually making the rope. You've got enough material now.
Is this...
Abram, you are getting you've wasted the bit you're looking at. It's just not plaiting. Possibly this bit was dead a bit too long, and the sort of the law of decay is kicking in, and you get about another 8 meter length, and then things just start snapping and falling away in your hands. Father Theo, you're able to add another sort of like 30 or 40 meters total. Ryoko and Durak.
What are we doing again? We rolling
Another
again?
survival.
Oh, damn it.
It's
Right, okay.
been longer than the one process.
Nope.
Shaken's helping at this point as well, and you also notice. I mean, the rest of you didn't get any particularly good there, but you're off to one side. You're hearing what sounds like knitting needles, and you look over, and Dr. Hemlock is sat there, and he's just picking up bits of vine and putting it in front of him, where his two arachnobots are essentially knit one, pearl one, knit one, pearl one, knit one, pearl one. And on the other side of these sort of flashing bronze and copper legs that are just moving with preternatural speed, out of the other side is coming this production line of meter after meter of vine constructed rope, and he's just like acting like the spinning wheel and just feeding things into these meticulously moving mandibles. Well, that's a nicely
That's not fair.
alliterative bit. Meticulously moving mandibles. I like that. Okay, but you've still not got enough, so everyone's going to go through a third round. So you needed a total of 10. You're currently at about 7.
Quick AFK.
Check me out.
Ryoko doesn't add anything to it. Father Theo, on the other hand, does add enough. Durak might have added enough, but it seems on the last one. Yeah, Durak contributes. Abram contributes less so, and the last meters of rope are provided by the tailors Arachnid and Arachnid. So they finish off the bits. You've got a massive pile of rope that Prince Chakan appears to pick up one end of and triple wraps it around the bole of a particularly large mangrove-style tree, and then takes one end and begins to feed it over the edge. You're looking at about 800 meters or more of rope. And he keeps putting it over the edge until there's little left, and he drops the last bit over the edge, and the rope from the tree goes taut.
Man alive.
He looks over towards you and then gestures down, grabs the rope by his hands. What he's actually done as well is you note that he's got a smaller bit of vine wrapped around one wrist, and he takes that, wraps it around the rope, and then puts the other one around his other wrist, holds on, and as he holds, you see that he stretches his wrists in such a way that at any moment he could just stop himself from falling. And he gestures, and you see there's about half a dozen others of these, one that he's put together for each of you. And he lowers himself over the edge and begins to adeptly, not really abseil, but reverse Batman, walking down the cliff.
He makes it look so easy.
He does make it look very, very easy. Are you all following?
Yeah.
This is going to be Dex, isn't it? I've got a horrible feeling.
It's going to be Dex or Maneuver skill, if you have it, for a couple of extra points.
Oh, I do have Maneuver.
That'll do.
Yeah, it's not particularly bad. Scallon, you're doing, I don't know if you've got to push your button, but you're doing the, I sound like I'm coming from the toilet again, echo.
Sorry, there you go. I've plugged myself back in. Right, what could possibly go wrong?
Target 10, I win.
Target is 10.
At least nothing bad will happen if we let go. It's only 800 feet.
Meters.
800 meters. Nothing bad can happen with an 800 meter drop. Oh, excellent. Good luck, Theo. Well, at least you'll be first one down, I suppose.
Hey, Theo, you're lowering yourself over the edge, and you feel the issue is that as your weight tips over the point of the cliff, you feel your footing slide out from beneath you. Given the order, you proceed to plummet about 6 meters. You don't fall away from the rope thanks to the liana. However, Durak, please make a strength test.
Oh, well, I have to make a strength test.
I knew I shouldn't have had that last donut.
Because you've just been hit by a cleric from above.
I can do something to this.
You can. You should. Because if you don't, Prince Chakan's got to make a test.
I will use a possible.
Okay.
I was just looking at something else. Why did someone do that?
Because he felt it should have been longer. Then,
He's got 800 meters to scream.
Yeah, okay.
Well, luckily it's only 8 meters before his plummet is blocked by dwarven metal.
Oh, I'll be halfway. I'll be still on the A's then at that point.
Oh, hello.
19, 20, 21, which is 8 plus
That's
11,
90,
19.
More than easy. Essentially, Theo, you drop a certain distance, take 2 shock from the impact from the end of the plummet, but your plummet is stopped by your otherwise unstoppable downward force is stopped by an immovable, slowly moving downward force in the form of Durak.
Oh, thanks, Durak. Thanks for catching me.
There's a bit of embarrassment as you extricate yourself, however.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, why do you have to wear such spiky armour?
I don't have spiky armor. I haven't took that feat yet.
Oh. Well,
Something else, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I don't want to know.
Just,
I don't want to know.
just don't look down.
I'll not look down. Try and stay right myself once more. Dust myself
You'll get to
off.
the bottom of the gorge, and you'll see Durak with a smile on his face.
Well, the only thing spiky on my armor is my horns. See it?
Which are at the top.
And that's what we're worried about.
We'll speak of this to no one. What happens in the Misty Gorge stays in the Misty Gorge. Okay.
After a few minutes, you actually pass into the mist level. So everything around you is uniform grey. You can see the wall ahead of you. You can see a wall a bit above you and a bit below you. But anything around you is just this grey cloud bank, limiting all vision. You can hear the waterfall off to your left. And that seems to be drowning out almost any other noise you can hear. Except about Durak, you're going first. You can see Prince Chakan beneath you. About 100 meters down, there's a sound at the edge of your hearing that isn't being entirely drowned out by the waterfall. It's a distant buzzing sound. It periodically grows in intensity and then fades, and then grows and then fades. Every time you look down, every time it gets louder, you look down and you can see Chakan freeze for a second or two before waiting for the sound to head further away before he continues to climb downwards.
Exactly what he does, because he's got more knowledge.
And then there's a point where this is the last time you hear the sound. It rises in intensity. It seems like it's coming straight towards you all, but then it seems to pass away. The noise heads upwards towards the head of the falls and then disappears and fades out again.
Right, better not have caught our vine and start cutting them.
Well, you hold your breath, continue climbing. About 60 meters from the bottom, and you don't know you're 60 meters from the bottom until this occurs, you break out of the cloud bank. And you can see for a significant distance around you now
Ooh.
and you can see the ropes that you put together continue down. They're pulled at the bottom. You've maybe got 20 meters of give on these. And you finally get to the floor of the chasm. You're above a massive lake formed by the waterfall. The tall river, which is the one that you were told it was called, you can see it continues away to the north. You can just about make out farmland, tilled wheat style crops on each side of the river. There are paths winding their way through the top of the deep boot-shaped gorge. And on either side of the farm, even at this level, and as you're coming down into this, you can see thick jungle right up to the canyon walls. Left of the lake, and possibly up to about 2 kilometers away from you, you can see a large stone temple rising up out of the jungle. Its construction obviously different to the small brown huts, which you can see clustered in and around the paths ahead of you and the farm area. You can just about make out crowds of people around the temple as well. As you're gathering yourself, the prince nods to the temple and says one single word: Spencer. He is clearly nervous at this point, and he is seemingly urging you to get out of the open. So you've got a small clearing at the edge of the tree line where you are at the moment, and he's urgent to get into the jungle.
Okay.
Any of you that are paying attention to him, he is constantly looking up more than he's looking around.
Well, I'm going
Urge
to
again, or what?
Yep, get under tree cover.
hide, yes.
And he nods and says, Daruni. Abram, is that in English, in Leopard Warrior, to the group, to anyone else?
It's a whisper to whoever's closest to me. So not out loud. I'm not saying making any noise out loud. It's just
Dr.
sort of
Dick burps in acknowledgement.
thanks. Wish I had. How am I always stuck with him?
He's the closest one, and he's the one I
Damn.
can caricature better than Dr. Hemlock.
What's my shock limit, by the way? Sorry.
It's your spirit. Unless you've got any perks that add to it, you can take an amount of shock equal to your spirit before becoming KO'd.
Okay, I'm not far off.
Really? Do you want I've got a potion that will help you
you
there.
certainly wouldn't have recovered any shock during that climb down. If anything, you took some damage because of the fall.
I've had the shot for quite a while, I guess, but yes, if you've got anything that can help me.
I'll give you an elixir of life, and it removes all your shock.
Oh, Oh, thank you very much.
Like a Victorian energy drink.
Oh, brilliant!
It's got a quite a I mean, given
Quite a kick.
Victorian technology, it's got quite an opiate kick, shall we say?
Woo. I'll say it's it's like a Victorian Red Bull.
It comes in a hip flask.
Very good.
As you're not going up there, I'm just going to reveal that bit.
Just as we were going, can we see what sort of community were the farmers? Do they look like they were slaves, or do they look like they were these winged Durrani?
Give us a find check.
Just everybody, or just
anybody looking? Anybody looking? You've got a minute or two before you head into the jungle cover.
You're all looking. You know you are. Oh, both got 10s. We see the same thing.
They appear to be Bronze Age. They're wearing clothing, not any kind of furs or anything like that, but it's quite simple linens. At this distance, you can't see much in the way of tools. What you cannot see in any way, shape, or form is any of them having wings of any kind. And as you take possibly a second too long looking, Chakan gestures, quick, through, and he gestures towards the jungle.
Makes more sense.
Follow him.
Yep, get in there.
He's heading, quite clearly you can work it, he's heading directly towards the temple. However, at all points, he is at least a dozen meters off the path. You hear drum beats in the distance coming from the temple, and Chakan begins to run, reducing the need for stealth with obviously a need for expediency and urgency. And with the whispered voice of Spencer, he charges through the jungle. So you get about 200 meters away from the temple, and you can hear the chanting of hundreds of alien voices. He's moving as fast as he can now, with you following, breaking through limbs and crashing noisily through the vegetation with little regard for stealth. Finally, he and you following break out into a clearing. Before you is the temple that you saw before. Large stone steps between two towering columns. At the top of the steps is a priestess in long leather robes and a strange mask, emphasizing her eyes in a bug-like fashion. Before her, tied up, is a human in modern clothing, obviously Spencer Marshall. To either side of the priestess are warriors with long spears standing beside their mounts. Giant wasps the size of rhinoceros. Far above it all, roughly where the asterisk is on the map, is what you first take for a statue. But then it moves. The head of an even larger wasp, if its size ratio is comparable to the rhino mounts, the size of this one's head would suggest that that thing is the size of a double-decker bus. It appears to be watching the ceremony below it, anxiously, if you could tell that from a face that can't express any kind of emotion. But slowly it dawns on you this isn't a sacrifice. Spencer appears to be lashed in such a way that his abdomen is exposed. This is a hatching ceremony. Spencer is obviously the host for a new batch of wasps. But between you and the temple are many, many more natives. Most of them appear to be simple folk, very similar to some of the farmers you saw, some sort. But there are literally thousands of them between you and the steps. And it feels like all of their eyes turn towards your group at once.
Seriously? Oh, crap.
A score of wasp riders with a buzz take off from the temple and begin rushing directly towards you. All of the riders are female, and surprisingly, they're actually riding slung beneath the wasps rather than above them. As they approach, are you doing anything?
Oh, crap. Other than soiling ourselves. What is Chakan doing?
He is standing his ground at the moment.
Weapons drawn, or does he have any weapons?
He has a knife, but that's it.
Does it look like he's gripping it or anything like that?
I am a weapon.
He has his hand near his knife.
But he's not actually got it. Damn it.
He steps forwards, says something in a language you do not understand, and then the approaching Luftwaffe of wasp riders seem to pause, confused. And while he appears to be waiting for them to respond, he turns to you and says, in quite well received, unaccented English,
Huh?
I've challenged their champions. If I win, I will ask Spencer and we can leave. We must all fight, but cannot kill them. If we kill, we lose. He points towards your guns, motioning for you to drop them.
No, I'm not dropping it. I'll put it in its holster.
I believe that was the voice of Spencer.
No, that was Chakan.
How do we
It
win?
came from Chakan, though, but
Well, I need to take the leader, Miller, and he gestures up, and you can see one of the priestesses. You'll need to fight the others. If they accept it, we'll go to the arena.
I think it is this challenge, or we would be overwhelmed. I don't believe we have any choice.
We're certainly not going to take him on here.
We will. And if I fail, make your way to the cliff wall behind the temple. You'll find help there.
Where that giant wasp is?
Below it.
But
to the north.
What? Help?
To the north. Just look. We haven't got time to discuss.
Okay.
As he says that, you notice that the wasp riders land. The group of the crowd parts, and Chakan, with you behind him, walk through the angry but neutral looking crowd.
Are we not allowed no weapons?
I
have a spear.
Non-lethal. That is part of the ritual.
But I am lethal.
Well,
Lethal's
friend,
his middle
you will
name.
have to find some way to curb your lethality. This is a ritual combat. If anyone dies on either side, the other side loses.
Oh, so if we kill Dr. Dick, we win. They lose.
Okay, we'll push Dr. Dick in front of us.
Cool. Let's kill him.
Is there a way for me to make Dr. Dick very vulnerable?
He's old, he will die of heart attack.
We're only joking, Badger, if you ever watch this.
You never know, he might do. Right, ladies and gentlemen. In character, obviously.
Oh, right, okay, I was wondering I was going to go, who's the lady?
So no electric stuff, Ryoko?
You are shown up the steps to a sub-level of the temple. And there is a ritual arena. It's open to the east, as it shows on the map.
Looks like an airship.
Why aren't the other arachnobots on there?
I'll ask Chakan if I'm allowed to use a potion an explosive potion that won't kill him?
He basically says, as long as no permanent harm is done, that's the important thing.
Just knock him out, hopefully.
I have a plan. It needs to work.
Is your plan that you beat them? Oh, is your plan to get killed? Are you
Will
sacrificing
you
yourself?
stop doing your talking out loud thing?
Sorry.
Let the poor man respond.
Do we want him to kill himself?
He hasn't even responded to 14
My plan
questions you just
does not
asked him.
involve dying.
That's all right then.
Right, I just need to set up the encounter a little bit. Just want to make sure. Yeah, because you're all there, so there are those ones.
This is going to go bad.
Ignore the fact that there are wasps showing, because they are not on their wasps. These are dismounted wasp riders.
Jolly good.
Are they looking like wasps or are they human?
They are entirely human and entirely female. It is quite obvious that they are entirely female in the very living land way that it is always entirely obvious which gender somebody is, because primary gender characteristics in clothing are generally enhanced.
Has somebody got the what is it, the love card, whatever it's called?
Stand on the of a thing, brother.
Turn them all to love you.
Now,
Square's not possible or something.
as this bit is described, the inevitable arena battle. It's an inevitable arena battle.
Oh.
The wasp riders are still armed with their spears, but you can see that to a woman, they have reversed their spears, so the blunt end of the spear is the main element at hand. And as I say, the leader, Mila, exudes power and confidence with every step. She has long, golden, as opposed to what's shown there, hair, cinnamon skin, and brilliant green eyes. A long scar runs from her throat to the top of her breastplate. Chakan and her move up to each other and square off. Everyone give me a find test quickly before combat kicks off. You need at least a 15 on this one.
Oh, that's not happening.
I will spend a possibility on this. Let's succeed.
Okay. I've only got one possibility left. I don't have a cousin.
So that's 29 plus 10. So whatever, that'll be more than 15. I'll just get to it.
Abram, in the split second before combat begins,
19.
just after Chakan turns to your group and states with a stern warning, indicating to Mila, "This one I must fight alone." They exchange a strange glance, a knowing glance from one to the other.
Ooh.
Who whistled in the background?
It was an
Didn't it? That was perfect on the TV.
Okay, we will begin combat with "Don't show your throat." We are in a standard scene, which means defend and intimidate are approved actions this round. Whoever takes the most shock this round will become very vulnerable. The villains go first, and as is probably appropriate with your first encounter with these guys, there is a surge as reality attempts to prevent you from cheating.
Our turn.
Oh, but I want to cheat. Do we do that now or when it's our turn?
We'll do it on your turn.
Yeah, because we'll lose our benefits if we do it on their third turn. If we fail. At least I've got a card that stops this, by the way. Oh, I don't know if I can play it, though.
You could possibly play it. Which one is it?
Second chance. If I roll a 1.
Oh, yeah, that one.
But it's
Are
not.
any of these supernatural evils?
They are not. 2,
I'm guessing
3,
not.
4, 5, 6, 7.
Anyone got the
9,
funny thing that lets you
10?
put your card in your hand in your pool? May as well
No.
do it.
3,
Oh,
4,
situational awareness. Oh, yeah.
8, 9. Let me just double check that's right. They've got a 10 based on. Yep, they are. So straight away, a couple of them, numbers 1 and 2, dart forwards and bring the butt end of their spears around in an attempt. And again, they're doing this in unison. So obviously, these girls are quite adept at working as a unit towards Abram and Residence. In the split seconds before they bring them down to hit,
We are allowed to wound, but not to kill.
you've got to do non-lethal. I'll
Okay.
go over in a minute what the rules are for that.
And whoever is injured is out.
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
So before these two land, Wasp Riders 6 and 5 each dart forward in an attempt to distract the individuals who are about to be attacked. So before the melee attack from 1 goes down to Abram, Wasp Rider number 6 is going to attempt to.
Never going to happen.
One of them is going to try and trick Abram,
Dare they?
and the other one is going to try and trick Resident.
Yay!
So Residents, they're going to try and yes, you can try and outmaneuver Residents. So, Abram, what is your trick skill if you have it? If you don't have a trick skill,
8. If
that
it's just
is
mind.
it is just off of mind. Yes.
8.
Okay.
No.
Oda's number of 0. That's a standard success. She has chosen to make you very vulnerable. Sorry, vulnerable, not very vulnerable.
So is that -2 for me or -2?
That's -2 to your defense.
Oh, damn them.
And
Okay.
you are vulnerable. Abram Gardner. It's not been put on by Abram Gardner, but they have otherwise. And actually, the Screaming Wasp Rider number 5 is actually going to use the approved action of Intimidate. Not that it gives them much of a bonus, but it's just thematically appropriate if they're doing it. So she's yelling in intimidation at Hemlock. That's a bonus number of 0. Her intimidation skill is an 11 versus Hemlock's intimidation defense. What is he not in the right place? Come on, where are you? Residence Hemlock.
We have Ryoko in the front line of our attack, of our formation.
Oh, you get to move in a minute, so it's not a problem. 11 versus his intimidation defense of it's going to be strength of 6. So that's 5. She's choosing to make Dr. Hemlock very vulnerable. So these generally last until the end of your next action. So with that in mind, Wasp Rider number 1 brings her spear end around towards Abram Gardner's exposed flank. So
Never
that is a
exposed.
melee weapons total for the Daruni Wasp Rider. If I can close a few windows I don't actually need. Of a 12. Now, what defense are you using? You can use dodge or melee weapons depending on what you're doing, but it is going to be at -2.
Right. My I will attempt to dodge, I think, at 11.
Okay,
So it's 13, but so it'll be 11.
Goes down to an 11. So her 12 beats your 11. Not
I could
enough.
defend, couldn't I?
You could choose to actively defend, but it would sacrifice your go.
No, she's only got 1 over me.
Yep. So I'm just going to explain non-lethal damage. Give me a second. Because you can choose to do non-lethal damage at any point you really want to. Apologies, I should look this up beforehand so I was prepared for this bit, but nonetheless. Firing to melee, multi-actions, malfunctions, rapid fire objects. Okay, maybe I can't find the non-lethal bit. Non-lethal damage. Non-lethal wounds are recovered. Sorry, okay, so you're still doing wounds, so it's bruising, but they'll recover more quickly. Okay, so you just at this point you're just electing to do non-lethal. Getting 4 wounds with non-lethal just indicates you're unconscious rather than dead. Okay. So the Wasp Rider brings her javelin's blunt end up against you, and that is 12 damage versus your toughness. What is your toughness?
10.
So that is 2 shock. A ringing blow to the side of your head.
So good.
Now, Dr. Hemlock going to have a slightly worse time with it as they get a bonus number of 3 onto their skill, giving them a melee weapons 12, 15 versus his defense, which is not very good, especially since it's down by 4. So his toughness, which I should really have filled in, it's currently showing as a 0, but it's his strength. So his toughness is 6, and his dodge is 8, and his melee defense is 8, and his move is 8, and his unarmed defense is 8. So they get an outstanding success on him. Can somebody roll 2 bonus dice for me?
So
This is to kill.
You didn't get bonus rolls.
This is to kill Hemlock.
So 22 damage as the spear. They bring it down, and Dr. Hemlock is distracted, exposes the right side of his temple, which gets a cracking thud from the end of the spear, versus his toughness, which is currently 6.
Oh,
I say
no.
currently, it's going to be 6 regardless. 22 versus 6. Anybody do
3
the math there?
wounds.
16 result points, which is 3
3
wounds.
wounds.
Shock.
some gone, isn't it? 3 wounds.
Oh, I think
Has he got any possibilities?
He's got one possibility. He's going to
Oh,
spend
phew.
that. Somebody please roll me a. So he's currently getting 3 wounds and 6 shock. He has a reality skill of 11. So that gives him a 12, which is enough to remove 1 wound and all of the shock. So it's still a nasty, nasty blow to the side of his head as he takes 2 wounds and he's left with a ringing head. And the remainders 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as they move up. And then they flank onto that side as well. As these guys come up, Daruni Wasp Rider 3 and Daruni Wasp Rider 4, not knowing which of your group are appropriate or otherwise, the northernmost Wasp Rider is going to attempt an intimidate on Dr. Dick, doing it in reverse, and the southern one is going to attempt a trick upon Mr. Blackaxe. So intimidate versus Dr. Dick, first of all, not going to be particularly good. That's a -4. I'm not going to spend possibilities on them just yet. They do have them. I've got 6 of my possibility pool left at this moment in time. -4 on their intimidate gives them a 7. It is based on strength, and Dr. Dick's strength, funnily enough, is only a 6. So
Against intimidate with thing.
Dr. Dick is going to become also very vulnerable. Oh, sorry, vulnerable, not very vulnerable, just vulnerable, yes. And the trick against Durak. In fact, you know what? They're not going to try trick. They are going to... yeah, they're going to trick you. They're not going to taunt you. They've got a slightly better trick than taunt. Doesn't go well for them, though. As let's just double check. Well, one's a fail anyway, so that fails. Mila and Prince Chakan are already well into it, trading blows with the best of them. It's your guys' goes. Don't forget, you have a surge this round. We are in the living land, so savagery might apply.
A medium blast. A medium blast. What would that cover? What would that take out?
Essentially, a medium blast is going to be sort of a 3x3.
No.
So a small blast would be a 2x2. Medium blast would be a 3x3. Large blast is going to be dependent. So yeah, you could a medium blast. You could take 1 and 6.
Do your rolls, guys.
Why'd you roll the d20, Derek? Oh, for your
Surge.
Yeah, for your surge. Yeah, you might as well all get the surge rolls out of the way first off.
Is it just
Could I do 1, 6, and 5 like that? If I hit it, it's 5.
Yeah, you could do.
Or 6 rather.
20 rolls, go.
Because it's a surge this round. So just roll a d20. None of you have got tech axiom inappropriate equipment. So as long as you don't roll a 1, you'll be fine.
You like to tread thinly, don't you? Dangerously.
Yeah, the only time it might be a 4 case is, I don't know, if you're from the living land and you were having a very complicated conversation about sociology or planning, that might bump you up into a 4 case category, but generally it's your tech that triggers these ones. So you're all good. I'm not going to make the roll for people who aren't here.
Shall I try and throw my potion then? See if I can knock a few of them out?
Give it a shot.
Right, so throw missile weapons. Do you get +2 if it's close range?
No, because it's just you're trying to scatter.
No, that's shotguns, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is. Missile weapon there. On the wrong page.
It's X if you don't have any bonus.
Bum, 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 10. No, I'll use a possibility.
Because it's an area of effect one, so it doesn't necessarily have their dodge involved, but it's involved to a degree.
Right, so that's what did I roll? 7, so 24. Is +8, so that's 20.
Okay, do you want to describe what, or tell us what your potion actually does?
Okay, I throw it's a spherical sphere, glass made of quite thin, brittle glass, and it has some weird foggy mixture inside it. As well as you can hear something jingling and jangling around in it. It's sort of like a weird, strange thing. But I throw it in front of number 6, I think it was, sorry. When it hits on the floor, just a big blast of light and smoke goes off around in the whole section, and it's supposed they have a strength test. If they pass, they take 2 shock. If they fail, they are knocked out.
Good win.
Now, I seem to remember that being done to somebody.
No, it has never been used before.
Oh, I just remembered
No
something.
dwarf was ever knocked out by this potion.
Yeah, not when it wasn't pitch black and you couldn't see what was happening anyway.
Yep.
So what's the difficulty?
You have to do a throw check.
Oh, hang on. Good thing. I've done the throw check. I got 20. Oh, will it be my 20? I don't know.
Double check. Not certain. This is the Thunder Brew, isn't it?
Yeah, I've just got it.
Yeah, it's a standard strength test, so it'll be a 10, essentially.
Darn it. Better than...
So one of them gets a bonus number of 5. So that is going to be Wasp Rider number 1. Their strengths are 10, so that gives her a 15. So Wasp Rider number 1 takes 2 shock. Got to find the right bit now. I think it's the health one.
Where's all these ones when you want them?
Wasp Rider 6 gets 2 shock.
Use up all your good rolls. Use them up.
Wasp Rider number 5. That's only a 6. That gives her a bonus number of -4, which is still a success because they've got a. No, actually, it's not.
No, it's 10.
Sorry, I was adding it. So strength 10. So Wasp Rider number 5 is KO'd.
Not dead, it just KOs them.
What?
So I will put her on 8 shock, just double checking. Yep. So do really what right number 5 takes 8. I will make them invisible. So the corpse is on the floor. It's not a corpse because it's still breathing.
Don't call it a corpse.
So as that thunder boom rocks out across the arena, the smoke clears. 2 wasp riders stand shaking their heads to clear their minds, and 1 is lying prostrate upon the floor. Crowd don't know how to react to that. So who's going next?
I raised my arm. I was like, yeah, come on. I can put a card in my pool. Is that right?
You can indeed. Any action whatsoever, be it successful or otherwise, at the end of your go, you can put a card in your pool. You get a new card if you perform an approved action.
I'll go next if I may.
You can indeed. Well, it's not up to me. It's up to your fellow Storm Knights. If they all go, no, you're not going next, then nothing I can do about it.
So
I was reading non-lethal.
Yeah, it's just you do your normal damage. There's no minus, but it's just
No.
it does non-lethal wounds.
No, it has to be a blunt weapon.
Well, there's that too. You can't do
Yeah.
non-lethal with a bullet, for example.
Residence Hemlock in front of me. He is wounded still, isn't he? He took quite a bad
He's got
blow.
some particularly bad bruises to his temple.
2 wounds, I think he's got.
He has.
Well, let me see if I can fix that with a short prayer. I will attempt a healing miracle upon him.
You don't get any minuses for him being heathen.
Don't think.
If it doesn't mention it on that one, then don't worry about it.
Yeah, I
It'll say
don't.
it specifically in the religion, in the faith. Miracle, crying out loud, get the right words out.
I think it's just the lay on hands that I get the minus on. I don't think
It may very
applies
well be,
for
yeah.
this. Okay, so it's a bit disappointing, but never mind. That's a success, which means that he heals 1 wound, all shock, and removes KO. If he was KO'd, but he isn't.
He was not KO'd, but that's good to know that you can do that because that might become a requirement.
Wow. Yeah. Can you do that as often as you want, that skill, by the way? Before it's not a one-shot, an attack or an encounter.
I think there might be certain things that say you can only do once an encounter on 1 person or stuff like that. Or
correct, yeah.
How many wounds did you heal?
16, I think it is, isn't it?
Once per
I've got 1
scene,
wound now.
I can only do it on someone, once per scene, so I have to wait till next time to do
Well, I know, but again, you can play a card into your pool. Who's going next?
I will go next because I really, really want to get a card.
Make sure you're
going to do Intimidate then, aren't you?
I'm going to intimidate. What's intimidate actually do? Just makes him vulnerable and thing. Which doesn't
vulnerable,
do
very vulnerable, stymied, very stymied. Player's call as well. If you get an outstanding success,
make them
can
flee.
say, I actually want them to do this.
I'll do it at number 6 then.
Just to let you know, these guys only have 1 wound. That means, okay, there are critters that go away with 1 wound. Anything that's got a numbered wound level, the second they take the wound above that level, they're taken out. Generally, a player's call can't take out something that has a numbered wound value, but you can determine what they do for their next action, make them move in a particular direction, describe what you want for the outcome. You generally have to describe what you want for the outcome before you roll, but we'll let you go for this one.
We need to do 2 wounds to these to take them out.
You really need to talk faster, John. Before I roll a dice. Let's see. I failed. I don't want to use a possibility on this. I'm going to. I can just move a card. And
you can put a card in your hand from your pool. And you pull from your hand, so we get the right one. Obviously, there was some kind of language barrier there. Whatever you tried to do in that intimidation, these Wasp Rider women are obviously either made of Cerner stuff or simply didn't understand what your intent was. Who's next? Ryoko? Ryoko's next.
Sure.
That's the only one
Just
left.
Ryoko. Are the other two doing anything, or are they not going to be
They
there?
are going to. I'm going to declare for them in a bit, but Ryoko goes first.
Can I, Mr. Wasp Rider 1? Can I give him a knock?
Mrs. Wasp Rider 1, they are all female. Of course you can. You can move
Nothing.
yourself, so you can move a number of squares equal to your dex in a round. So you're moving over there. Those are sort of pillars, not particularly high, maybe 5 or 6 feet with chains going up to the statues around the edge, by the way, they're actually wasps.
Are you doing non-lethal?
Yes. I
So
can try an
with
unarmed.
the katana, you've got either unarmed or you could do flat of blade, that sort of thing.
Yeah, let's do the flat blade. Is there any minus to it?
We're not going to get that complicated at this point.
All right.
Chop her head off.
I'll use a possibility.
I would, otherwise you're going to miss. Your defences on this one are 12. So that's
5,
18
19.
total. So your total of 19 over their defense is 7 higher than the defense. Good enough for a good success, not an outstanding. So you will roll your damage plus a bonus dice. Their toughness is 10. So that's 6 added on. 6 counts 5 and a reroll. So what is 6 added on to your katana damage?
Katana 13.
That's 19 with the plus. 19 versus 10 is 9 result points of damage. So that is 1 wound and another 2 shock to Daruni, Wasp, Rider 1.
So I knock her off the wasp.
They're not
She is
actually on their Wasp. As I said, they're dismounted. But
Alright.
yes, you go across and it's a cracking blow. It strikes her in the left presented shoulder. She fumbles her weapon for a second, and you can see there's already a sort of deep red welt going down the flesh of her left arm. And you did hear a nasty sort of crack, not necessarily a crack of bone breaking, but obviously the meat of your weapon hit the sort of the solid structure in her shoulder. Dr. Dick is going to attempt a trick in return off of a 0 versus number 6. That's going to make them, his trick value is quite high. That makes number 6 very vulnerable if they weren't already, which I don't think they were. So he makes it very vulnerable. I can never find the FX bit. I keep moving into the wrong place. Up there. No. So number 6 is very vulnerable. And Resident Hemlock is going to attempt something similar versus number 2. He tries to fall backwards, feigning unconsciousness to put the other Wasp Rider number 2 off her guard. With a 14, he has also got a relatively good mind statistic. In fact, I think he might even have put points in trick. He has indeed. You know what? I'll use his TORG roll instead of what I just rolled, unless I get shit. But at least it tells us what the value is. Yeah, that's not right because his mind should be higher than that. Yeah, his mind is 11. His trick is 1, so he should be going for 14. That's a completely wrong setup he's put on that one. I'll sort that out later. So yes, another one, and he again, this time he doesn't want to make it very vulnerable. He is going to make the one on his very stymied, making it harder for him to hurt him, should she wish to do so in her next combat round. So Daruni Wasp Rider number 2 is very stymied. Right, so the character at the end of that round that has the most shock and thus exposed their throat more than any other would be Durak if he was putting his stun from low to high. But I'm not going to do that.
Did I get shock?
You would know you've got your health at 11, whereas it goes from 0 upwards, is how I've done it. But not to worry, I've worked it out. It's actually Daruni Wasp Rider number 4. So it's character, not player. So there's no tie. So at the end of that round, Daruni Wasp Rider number 4, due to the Living Land's weird reality, is also very vulnerable. Something happens. Her throat is exposed. Make yourself look bigger. Heroes go first. Villains are fatigued. And this round, the intimidation skill. Oh, I should have done it. I was doing it wrong. It should be based on spirit rather than strength. Not to worry. It is based on strength this round. It's normally based on spirit.
Oh, I was wondering about that earlier. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, my bad. It's based on strength in too many games. Heroes going first. Trick and intimidate are the approved actions. Mila and Prince Chakan are a blur of traded blows. They appear to be quite well matched, though. So as each one is striking, it's been to be blocked by the other one. Abram, you've been keeping an eye on it. It also seems as if maybe they're anticipating each other's moves. You're not certain.
I feel like they've done this before.
You're getting that impression.
I will go first.
Oh,
Intimidate them to nothing again.
I am intimidating Rider 1. You stop. Where's intimidate again? There we go. And this is strength
this round. Yep.
Okay, so oh god.
Now their strengths are quite high, so you're looking at it's their intimidation. You're looking at 11s.
Yeah, but I'm looking at my one. I have to do this differently. I have to change the dice roll.
Well, you can just roll it. / TORG space, whatever the value is. That'll do the same thing.
Yes. I have to calculate it. 1 plus 12.
/ TORG 12. So the difficulties are 11s. Who are you doing versus number 1? Number 1 doesn't have any other modifiers on them at the moment, so you would fail at this point with an 11.
Tired of failing. I'll use my possibility and get it.
Go ahead then. That's at least a 10, so that's an 18 instead. That's a bonus of 5.
17.
17 versus 11 was enough to give a good success, so you can choose to make her stymied and vulnerable, or very stymied, or very vulnerable.
I'll do very vulnerable because hopefully someone's going to take her out in a couple of seconds.
Oh yeah, dead easy.
And I get a card.
Step A, 75.
Another one.
Who's following the dwarf?
Shall I take her out then? Shall I try taking her out then? If she's just been made very...
Yes, she's been made very vulnerable, so your target numbers to hit her this round, she is armed, are 7s.
Okay. I'm going to use my spear. Like them, I've turned my spear around. So it's melee weapon in it.
Hope so. Oh, you hit it.
You did hit. Not enough to do bonus damage. You have hit.
I will.
Their toughness is a 10s, so base your decision off of whether you're going to do any damage or not.
So the damage is plus strength plus 2. No, I will. Yeah, I'm going to do a possibility.
Now remember, you could spend your living land possibility, and rather than adding, you could just decide to add a bonus dice.
I might still do that.
Okay, you can do it. I guess.
I'm saving that because I might need quite, because my strength's not massive, so I might need
that's a 19. Good. Bonus number 6 gives you a 17 versus her 7. That's already an outstanding success. 2 bonus die of damage.
Oh, excellent. Right. I won't get to re-roll my 1s though, will I?
No, because you are not using your trademark weapon. So that's 9 damage on top of what you do normally.
So 19 damage. Is that enough? Let me have
9 result points. That's 1 wound and 2 shock. 1 extra, 2 wounds and 4 shock.
Has she already got a wound, that one, or has she not?
Wasp Rider 1 currently has 4 shock and 1 wound.
Right, so she only needs 1 wound. Boom, that'll do.
So you do an additional shot. I mean, it wouldn't knock her out, but it does.
Does it not?
No, the shock wouldn't knock her out, but the wound does knock her out.
That's okay. Whew.
Who is following?
Can I play flurry so I get a second go after all this?
You can choose when you want to do that, if you wish to do that.
It'll be at the very end. It's
Yeah,
not
it'll be
now.
after
Yeah.
everyone else's go. Before the villains go, but after Theo
All right,
and Rio.
I still go before the villains, do I?
Mhm. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I will do. I might be able to. If somebody's half wounded, I might be able to finish them off. I'll
Play
play
flurry
that
then.
then, and I get the card in my hand.
You can put one from your hand into your pool. While you're doing that, who's going next, Theo or Ryoko?
Rico.
I'll go next if you like.
Sure.
I'll look at Wasp Rider number 6, and I'll say, oh, you're 4 you are. Look at Durak here. This dwarf, he might be small, but look at the size of them shoulders, and look at the horns on that hat. And I'll make an intimidate roll.
Okay, go ahead.
Hopefully, he's a bit more intimidating than I actually am. Oh,
It's based off strength, remember?
Base of strength this round.
oh, do I? Oh, that's messed me stuff up, hasn't it?
Do you know what? I'm going to allow you to do it on spirit. It's just you could. I'm going to say you could base it on strength this round if you need to.
Okay, that makes it easier for my die roll. So there you go. So number 6 is currently vulnerable, so I'm looking at stymieing them.
Okay. So that's a total of 17. I mean, it's still their defense is still based off of their strength. So their intimidation is quite good. So it's off of 13. That's still 4 result points. So you can still make them stymied.
Okay.
So that is Wasp Rider number 2, was it?
6, sorry.
So number 6. So I need to find them. Boom, boom, boom. No, 6. I don't need to find them on the thing there. So we are making Wasp Rider number 6. In addition to being very vulnerable, they are also now stymied.
And then do I get a card? Do I?
You do indeed get a Nemesis card. It's a good one, Nemesis. You could discard it for a possibility and draw a new card, or you can make a particularly reality-rated character a personal enemy of your Storm Knight. You and the foe, when you do this, will both gain 3 possibilities. You don't have to play it now.
Alternative, you can discard it for a possibility and draw a new card.
Yes, it's 3 and do something interesting, or 1 and get a new card.
Can I be
Ryoko.
classified enemy?
No, it has to be
Oh.
foe. Ryoko, what are you doing?
All right. So number 6 is
Very
comparable?
vulnerable and stymied.
Okay, and number 4?
And number 4 is just very vulnerable.
Okay, I will use the chain in front of me to swing around and go for number 4.
Cool.
And hit her with the blunt side of the blade. Oops, that was a double click.
I'll let you take the second one. Being descriptive on what you were doing with the chain. I was going to give you a possibility for interacting appropriately with the genre and the environment, but you can take your 45 rather than your 18 instead.
I bet you no one's got a glory card ready or anything.
I would have one, but it needs 60 plus.
Well, don't forget, Alexander, don't forget last round you would have played a card from your hand into your pool, but you didn't.
True.
So just choose which one of those.
Well, I guess I would have put adrenaline,
Okay.
just in case I would have needed it.
So that's an action total of 26. So it's an outstanding success regardless at this point. So you will be rolling an additional 2 bonus die of damage. Roll that again. So you're on 7 at the moment. That's a 10 again. Onto your damage. I think I know where this one's going.
All right, so 13 from the blade.
So 23 versus her toughness of 10 is 13. So again, that is 2 wounds and 4 shock. She cannot do anything additional to defend herself. So with the palpable hit The wind is knocked out of her sails, breath out, and she just drops to her knees, gasping for breath, and then collapses because she can't get any air.
This gal's goalie just went AFK, so maybe the other ones.
I thought
I
Theo
get
had
it.
already done. No, Theo's gone.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, it's not me.
Didn't, oh no,
Oh.
you did the intimidate, didn't you?
That's right.
I think that's
remember.
everybody go this round, isn't it?
What about the other guys? Are we spiders and stuff?
I get flurry go
Yeah,
afterwards.
you're going to get a flurry in a second. Dr. Dick is going to try to make Darini Wasp Rider 2's life a little more complicated. If he's still there, wherever gone. Number 2, that's it. By making her very vulnerable with a trick, which is an approved action for him this round. His bonus number of 1 onto his trick total of about 14 gives him a 15 versus her trick defense of 8 is a good success. So he's going to make her very vulnerable, in addition to being very stymied. And Dr. Dick gets a subalter card.
Go, Mr. Flurry.
There's a Reckonabot guy gone. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're already doing stuff with Darini Wasp Rider 3. Down in
So
the corner.
which one's easiest to hit? Is it stymied I need?
Vulnerable
Or is it
is
vulnerable?
easy to hit. So 6
Who's very vulnerable?
and 2 are both very vulnerable.
I will go for 6 then, as it's there.
Yeah, I'm going to say that Wasp Rider 3 has taken a total of 2 shock from the spiders and is currently stymied. Uh, 12 on your melee weapons.
12, and they were so they're
Seven.
minus
An
7.
eight,
So that's
sorry,
1 bonus dice.
It's 8.
So it's not a bonus dice.
Yeah, I was one away from being a bonus die.
I will play my hero card.
Okay. At least a 10.
10. So that's 23.
That's a 19. So it is an outstanding success. Roll 2 bonus die of damage.
And they're a toughness of 10, was it?
They are indeed.
Twenty 10. So I want.
Well, if you can get a total of a 20, that'll be 2 wounds.
Right.
Otherwise,
Yes.
he's already taken 2 shock. Not enough to take her out just yet. Especially like that roll.
Oh, 2 1s. That's awful. What the hell? Let's leave me living land possibility.
Use your
Never
living
know. I
land
might.
possibility. Don't reduce your possibility total because that was separate. Just take it from wherever you've recorded it.
Get rid of that one.
Level 0 living land possibility. That's quite a good use, actually.
Come on. Oh,
Still added.
shocking.
Well, literally, because you're probably going to do shock. So 400 damage.
14.
2 shock.
Only 14. Yeah.
He's not very strong. However,
All that damage.
there you go. All the remaining villains take 2 fatigue from shock.
Ooh.
Wasp Rider number 2, is she still up? Yep. Oh, no, that's not
We take 2 shock from fatigue.
Yeah, that one. Their armor that they've got isn't giving them any fatigue. They don't have armor, actually. They're unarmored. That's interesting. And then number 6. That's been added. Number 2's been added. And which is there are only 2 left? No, there are 3 left. Which one am I missing? Darini Wasp Rider 3. Why can't I find number 3? There she is. 2 shock.
Is that enough to take any of them out?
No, it isn't, unfortunately. So number 6 spins around, bringing her spear down towards your legs, Abram, in an attempt to knock you to the floor with a maneuver.
You have to defend with a
Maneuver.
Okay.
She is stymied, however, so she is down by 2, so her manoeuvre skill is a little lower than it would otherwise be, so she's going off of a 10. I'm going to use one of my possibilities for this. So that's a 22, down to 5 in the pool. That's a bonus number of 8. So she has an 18 versus your manoeuvre. How many result points does that give her?
It's 11, so 7.
So 7, so it's at least good. She is making you very stymied for your next go.
And that's negative to hit, is that right?
In fact, it's more than that, because you're currently vulnerable, which had put her difficulties down by 2, which is enough to give her a player's call. So not only are you're no longer very vulnerable at the end of this, but on your next go, you are very stymied. You are very stymied, and you're actually prone.
I thought I was very vulnerable last turn.
No, you were just vulnerable. That was when. So at the end of your go, it disappeared.
How did I get very vulnerable?
You're not. You were just vulnerable, but we won't worry about it. You're just stymied at the moment because I probably forgot to take it off last round. So she almost succeeds in tripping you completely, but you manage to keep your standing, but you are very much overbalanced.
Sorry.
You're very stymied next go.
Which way is round that though? Sorry, is that for me when
your
I roll?
Abilities rather than your defense.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So Durak, Daruni Wasp Rider number 2 is undergoing the effect that residents made her think that he'd fallen over, and is attempting to smack you one. She is going for an all-out attack. So she's getting an immediate +4 to what she has. That's a bonus number of an 11. She's going to spend a possibility to give her another roll. That's a 20, so that's a 31. And an 8 makes it a 39.
Really wants to hit me.
He does. That's a bonus number of 11 onto her base skill of 12. That's a 23. How well does that hit you?
With the shield.
27, actually, because I forgot to add the +4 for all-out attack. So what was that, sorry, with the shield?
13.
13. So that gives her 2 bonus die of damage. One of her perks is Relentless, which allows her, when the character successfully uses the all-out attack option in melee, they can spend 3 shock to add an extra bonus die to the damage, which is exactly what she is doing. To make sure I'm on the right one. Number 2 takes 3 shock, so she's getting 3 bonus. Oh, I rolled 4. I'll roll that all again. That's better. So 13, well, it's actually 12. 13. 13 gives her a 25 damage. What is your toughness?
18.
So 18 versus 25, that's 7. So you'll take 1 wound and 2 shock from her blow. She drives the air out of you. Somehow she managed to hit your breastplate so hard that it drove up into your solar plexus. Your feet were planted, but then they shifted back like 3 or 4 inches, and you just found yourself gasping for breath. But doesn't keep you out of the commission for more than a few seconds. You are a hardy dwarf, after all. And Daruni Wasp Rider number 3 gets a decent bonus number of 5 onto that. And one of the arachnobots is cracked slightly as it takes a wound.
Don't tell, Hemlock.
Thick skin. Proved actions are just intimidate. Villains go first with inspiration.
I'm going to play Seize Initiative and have the other one back.
You want to bring the other one back? So we are still on. Make
again.
Okay, you guys first. They go second. Fatigued is going to occur this round, so they'll all take an additional 2 shock. But you guys go first. Who's going to start off?
Let me do.
The other card, sorry.
I swing around.
If anyone else wants. That's
Yeah,
all
Ryoko is going to kick off. You swing around flanking number 6.
Yes.
It's still going to be a hit. Number 6 at the moment. Actually, they faded. She doesn't have any minuses right now because they weren't placed on her. She's had a
Do you
go.
want me to try first? But never mind.
Let me.
I
That's
doubt
it.
they'll succeed, to be fair.
Yeah, it's one result point. It's enough to do base damage. Don't know what that is for you.
It would make
13?
a difference if I add an adrenaline card to it for +3. Would that help?
Sure.
16 versus 16 versus a 12 would be 4. You'd need to add another point if you wanted.
Oh.
You can only play supporter cards. I don't think you can play adrenaline on other people.
Unless
Oh.
it says so. I don't think it does.
Doesn't
You'd have
say.
to swap it out to Alexander's pool in order for him to use it instead.
Which we can't do in mid-combat, can we?
Nope. You can swap between hands, but not between pools.
It doesn't say actually. It just says add +3 to a skill total.
Yeah, it's yours.
Yours.
It's
Okay.
personal.
Right. Okay, that's good.
Otherwise, the supporter cards null and void.
So at the moment, Alexander, what damage will you be doing versus their toughness of 10?
Well, my base damage, the normal is 13, and I can add another 2 with the
So,
key strike.
3 results would do 2 shock. 5, which would include your Kai strike, would do 5 result points or 1 wound and 2 shock.
And this is what is needed, or?
It is indeed.
So let's do the key strike, and I take 1 shock.
Yep. So, or is it 2 shock? I don't know. Anyway, whatever it costs, you do it. So you spin around, bringing your sword back, and just before you land the strike, which is more a punch, just with the weight of sword behind it, you all hear Ryoko. It's a yell. It's not a particular word. It's more a vocalization than anything else. But just the force of the punch again drives the wasp rider, strikes her straight in the small of the back. It's a loud cracking thud, and she stumbles forward a couple of feet before collapsing down to one knee and then just rocking over onto her left side and hitting the floor.
Yes.
Who's following Ryoko?
I'm going to attack this stupid thing that hurt me.
Do you want me to try and trick her first? I won't succeed, just so you know, but it'll get it done.
Wasp number 2?
Yeah, I'll do whichever one just to help.
No negatives at the moment.
Hurry up.
It's
Go,
be very
go,
quick.
go.
So, trick versus her trick defense of 8.
Oh,
So you
I
can
got
make it
9 because I'm minus. But I get -4 to that, though, don't I?
You are -4 at the moment, yes. So it's a success. You want to make a Steinman or vulnerable?
Whichever's easier to hit for the dwarf to hit her.
Vulnerable.
Can I get a card as well? Woohoo! Didn't expect that.
That was that's number 2, isn't it?
Get a card. How you tricked it? Okay.
Yeah. You get a glory card.
Ooh, nice.
Right, Durak.
Yep, I'm going to hit this thing with my shield.
Her defenses currently are 10. Shield bash. Very dwarven.
Their defense is 12.
Her defense is 10. Because of the reduction of the trick.
10, you say?
Mm-hmm.
I'll use my adrenaline to put that up to 11.
Okay, so you're doing base damage, which is?
For the shield bash, it's 12.
12 versus her toughness of 10. That's 2 shock.
That's it.
How much shock can they take? So they're going to take another 2, so they might be going down at the end of this.
I could have took up the 11 shock, so I don't know.
Yeah, Wasp Rider number 2 is currently on 7. Wasp Rider number 3 is currently on 4. Theo, you'll go.
Oh, so 7's going to go down then when it gets to their turn.
Number 3 is trying to fight off the multiple attack of the limbs of the arachnobots.
Number 2's
Take
bad.
on number 3. We don't know. 2's going down.
Well, she said 2's got 7 shock left.
Yeah, so she'll take 2 more. So she'll go down.
On there go.
She'll automatically KO in her own turn.
You going up with a shock rather than down?
Yeah, I'm on these ones.
Oh, okay. Go down. My health goes down.
Go after number 3.
I go up. So okay, so 4.
You can see she's about to drop. Don't go for her.
I'll go for number 3 then and try and.
Have a +2 for the many on one, because the fact is you are fighting alongside 2 arachnobots who, with a moment's notice, appear to switch into an assistive stance.
You've got a shock stick, don't you?
You do.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
That you've been avoiding using because of its high-tech axial. There's no need. You have
There's
a
no way you're going to roll a
Tech
1.
riot stick. So you've certainly hit, because Daruni Wasp Rider number 3 is only got a defense of 12, and you've just rolled a total of 13.
So I might as well use my adrenaline just because for a laugh.
Yeah, it would give you a bonus die.
Okay, so I'll just delete it from my pool.
It'll be over soon, Alexander, so it'll all be descriptive in a bit. So do you want to hang around and listen?
We're about to finish them off.
Okay, so I've got and my boomstick, shock stick.
It's +3, non-lethal only. So it's your strength +3. And it's painful. Which I think does something else, but
And 1 bonus die.
yes, because of the roll of your die.
So my strength +3 is 10 plus a bonus die, which is 2.
However, if we look to see what painful means, I believe it simply means that any shock is increased by 2.
Oh, non-lethal.
Sort of
but
weapons
painful.
you'll end up with in Tharcold as well, so be aware. Doopy-doopy-doo. We've got melee weapons. Yeah, so you've got yours is the
+1 shock. Yeah.
the riot stick.
Does +1 shock.
So 3 shock to Daruni Wasp Rider number 3. Puts her on 7 as she twitches as the electricity arcs across her body. Their go kicks in. Everyone on their side takes an additional 2 shock. Daruni Wasp Rider number 3 goes down on 9. Daruni Wasp Rider number 2 goes down on 9.
Yay.
The last of your opponents falls, and as you look up, you see Prince Chakan land a seemingly well-aimed blow to Mila's forehead. But those of you that are watching closely note that she actually gets her hand to it, and it's almost like an American wrestling situation. She cushions the blow. It seems to impact her head, and she collapses to the floor.
Huh. Very strange. They working together. They love us.
Now, we'll worry about cards next week because you're transitioning to the next scene. So everyone take their cards back into their pool, but we will be refreshing them at the beginning of the next round. The dumbfounded crowd is silent as Mila rouses her defeated warriors. A murmur begins across the crowd as Chakan walks towards Mila, takes her hand, and ascends the staircase towards the high priest. Standing halfway between the assembled crowd and the fuming priestess above, Chakan turns to Mila, says something to the priestess, yells something to the crowd. A few of the villagers in the crowd seem to cheer, but are quickly silenced by the furious majority. Chakan then looks down to you and again whispers in this surprisingly good English that he's starting to talk to you in. I have claimed my prize, the hand of Mila, champion of the honoured Wasp Riders. There will now be peace among our people. I'm sorry I lied to you. The priestess is screaming at Mila at this point. Chakan ascends the steps further to where Spencer is tied prostrate. He gestures for you to quickly follow him as the crowd around is getting chaotic. By the time you get there, he has released Spencer's bonds, and Spencer looks up at you in a stupor. He has clearly been drugged. He looks towards you. Chakan, he stammers to his friend. The Queen, she's gonna... in my... oh, man, bad juju. Chakan whispers to you. I cannot command the priestess until the wedding. You must take Spencer while I distract them. Head for the cliff, there," and he gestures towards the north, towards the cliff wall, about 100 yards behind the temple. "Look
Okay.
for my people. They'll protect you. Go, now." And he hurries you away. He heads back towards the priestess, and Miller moves to block their view as you decide what to do with Spencer.
Okay. Well, we.
Oh, has he been impregnated?
Make a find roll. He is seeming to check his exposed stomach, and he's like patting it around in places to see if he's got any kind of puncture wounds. Anybody that got at least a 10 on that, so everyone apart from Durak, you can't really tell. Human physiology, you're not sure. The stomach's far too stretched, it's far too long. Theo doesn't appear to be anything. Ryoko, maybe you're distracted by, you can see it. Abram, maybe you're distracted by the crowd. He seems to be whole, but so you begin to run away from the temple. You get down the steps about 50 yards between you. You hear a scream from behind you from the priestess, followed by the collective howls of the bloodthirsty crowd. Dozens of the gathered villagers begin to give chase, spilling over, out, and around the temple in your direction. Theo, you're 15. Yeah, you're able to determine that as well.
Oh,
Obviously,
has he been impregnated? That was.
He doesn't appear to be. 3 of you have confirmed he does not appear to have been impregnated.
Oh, okay, right. That's what you're saying. I thought you meant they hadn't seen anything.
No.
Right. Got you.
They're yelling, obviously, in anger about you stealing their goddess's sacrifice. You get towards the cliff, and you can see ahead of you there are a group of leopard warriors who are standing guard for 2 large baskets, which you can see vines heading up into the mist away from you. They gesture for you quickly to get in. As you're doing this, though, things go from bad to worse, as off to your west and a bit to the south, you can clearly hear an angry and excited buzzing sound coming from the Queen high up the cliff.
Uh-oh.
It seems that she's ready to lay eggs and will not be denied, and she begins to struggle free of her cave enclosure, and the rocks begin to crack away, showering heavy rocks tumbling down the cliff beneath her. You jump into the baskets, and the leopard warriors jump in with you. Each one of them in each basket tugs above, and you feel the jerky motion as your baskets begin to be far too slowly pulled up by manpower at the top of the cliff.
I'll have me gun out ready this time.
You get about 50 meters off the ground, and the wasp riders you fought earlier appear in the sky, shaking their spears in fury as, beneath their wasp mounts, they race directly towards you. Just to let you know, that's where we will bring it up next week, where the nearly kilometer-long ride takes 10 rounds. So it's quite quick.
Oh, how many? We only did like 3 rounds there, though. We've got to survive 10 rounds.
Yeah,
So we'll begin next round with round.
How many bullets have I got?
That was really good. Thank you.
I should not have spent all my cards, should I? Damn it, my flurry and my.
We'll be
Let's
fine.
we actually, well, I need to refresh the Destiny deck, I think, for next week, because just to let you know, you have worked through all but 10 cards of the 80 card Destiny deck. So there's only 9 left, or 10 left, before we refresh the deck and you start being able to redraw ones that you've previously gathered.
Oh, right.
Ryoko, before you go, you can have a bonus possibility for being pretty much the MVP of the physical combat. in that one.
Yay!
And,
Well done. And I will stop the
I'll take
stream.
that one
Thank you
too.
for watching, fans. Loads of
See you
fun.
all next week.